Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Probably I'm talking to myself right now. Probably, but I won't. I won't be talking by myself for very long anyway. So I hear it again. I do. I hear it. There he is. The traveling Sasquatch. Oh man. God damn it. Oh no. Always makes me smile.
You laugh every time.
How are you this morning?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Having some coffee. Had a day off.
Mm-hmm. Me and Ross have been having a few this
Oh,
morning.
nice. Look at that. I recognize that mug.
Oh
Yeah, I
man,
just had to take the car into the shop, man. Get this damn
the muffler
exhaust system,
or
man. And
exhaust. Yeah,
if it ain't one thing, it's another.
I know. That's exactly how I feel this morning. Things were going grand, and then something little just set me off. Man, I was like, "Why?" Little thing. It was just my Canva took a dump, and it had stuff on there I needed. Boy, man, that just and I was all good. I contacted Joe. Hey, Lee's not having a morning coffee. You want to jump on and do a show? Because I had just read that Joe said, I have to take a couple days off. My vehicle's going to be in the shop. I thought, okay, he's home. And shoot, I'm over here trying to make a quick, promo thing, and it just took me down. I was up here, and now I'm down here. Up
Yeah.
here, down here. But
It's
it's
those
okay.
days when
It's a little thing.
things are going okay, and then all of a sudden things aren't, and it's like a scene from Star Trek, and you're like, "Come on!"
That's how I felt. That is how I felt. And God, such a damn little thing too. It was
Yeah,
just.
yeah.
But no, I had to wake up my kid. Help me!
Had to wake up the tech department.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the tech department, and it's
yeah.
not that big a deal. We'll do it later, and I'm like, no, right now.
All right. Go get the IT department. Wake them up.
I know, poor thing.
Ah,
Yeah, but
yeah. Well, come to find out, man. I mean, this is like, of course, with the car, man. And then the other thing is, when once they get underneath there and they start looking at what needs to be repaired, then they find other shit that needs to be repaired too. So, I found out that I have a coolant tube leaking.
no,
So
man. This,
yeah,
hopefully
so
that's not
they
expensive.
they need a part for that. Which is, I mean, the car's not overheating or anything, but I guess it's leaking,
Yeah.
antifreeze or whatever. Which I thought I saw some on the ground yesterday, and I was like, "Is that coming from my car? And why?" And but
Why are
so
you
that
doing that to me?
so that needs to be fixed. It's never
Especially,
it's never a good sign when your mechanic walks in from the back, and he looks at you and goes, "This one's gonna hurt." And I'm like, "Yeah, tell
oh
me about it.
God.
I kind of knew you were gonna hurt my feelings."
Right, right, right.
But yeah, so but I mean, it's got to be done. So I mean, other than that, but they have to order the parts. So I still have the car with me now,
Mm-hmm.
and they got to order the parts, and then I got to take it back in. So, but I'm off for today. But then I said, well, till they call back, I'm gonna have to work. So I'm scheduled to work for the rest of the week now. So and it's like, good lord, man. When he said $2,500,
Holy shits.
um, and he's like, that's just for the parts. I'm like, oh my god, really? Oh lord. And I'm like, we did not plan on $2,500, man. We planned. I figured maybe 1,200 or so, you know. But no, it's twice that. So we've
Damn.
got about 14 put aside for it. So
Oh my God. That would
because
give me a heart attack, dude. Right now, that would give me a heart. It's so close to Christmas. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
be like freak. That's almost tank that, get a new car or something. I don't know.
Well,
I would be freaking out.
thing is, we have two vehicles, right? I have my Jeep, but my Jeep
Right.
is in the backyard, unusable because I've got either a leaking brake line or a leaking brake cylinder, and I can't hold any. It won't hold any brake fluid in the reservoir, so I got no pedal, and so it's sitting there because I need
Oh
to get
man.
that fixed, so that we have two vehicles again. But
But
uh,
I
it's
know.
if any one thing, it's another, man. I mean,
Always, always. The cycle of life. Just when you think you're a little comfortable, something happens. But I mean, it's just how you deal with it, I guess. I have mini heart attacks and then I'm okay. Then I calm
well,
down. But
I mean that's the good thing, I mean,
uh,
life is a fluid kind of thing, and no matter how bad shit gets, it's not going to stay bad forever. At least I don't think it will. Anyway,
yeah, and
it's gonna.
there's
I mean,
people out
this
there,
eventually this will be in the past, and
right?
it'll be something that we've dealt with. And yeah, it was rough, but it's over with. We're done with it. Time to move on to bigger and better things.
Right.
So,
Oh, my power to you, my sister Suzanne. It's today's her moving day, moving to a new
oh,
house. And you know what? That is completely normal, Sue, that your husband turns into Hitler on
I
moving day.
mean, literally
Completely
turned into
normal. Sorry to
literally turned
say.
into Hitler. Got a little mustache and everything. It's
Yeah, it is normal. Just run with it, go with the flow, find something else to focus on. Because it's stressful. It's moving is always stressful. So
grab that end, Buck Snell.
it will be a miracle, but once it's done, you're gonna come right back down. But it is. Try doing it every 3 years.
Hey, Joe,
Yeah.
When
the dispenser in Canandaigua.
Anyway, my wife gotta say
oh, we know what you're talking about there. So in the chat this morning, my lovely, lovely sister, I give you all my mojo today, sister. I will give it all to you to get you through today and your move. And it's going to get better. It's already almost better. You did it. You're doing it. You're making the move. Sandra, good morning, my lovely Sandra. Grasshopper, Forensic Mystics, good morning. Grasshopper says snowstorm from Seattle north lost power along with thousands who still don't have power. Trees are down all over. Our lines of pine lost huge branches still in the drive. Dang. So you guys had something huge happen in the Pacific Northwest. So, gosh, I hope everybody, you know what? I still have music on the background. I hope everybody's okay out there dealing with that. It is really overcast here in El Paso today. Not too chilly, but a little chilly. Elle, good morning. Good morning. This is just a little impromptu morning thing. I usually don't do a morning thing because Lee from Ravens Outpost does his morning thing, and Morning Mojo with JoJo does his morning thing. So, I tried not to, but it was just an opportunity.
It's let me see.
And who else we got? Probably I didn't really advertise this. So, good morning, Brian and Choo Choo. That's what
hey,
my friend has a dog named Chewy also, but I call him Choo Choo.
Brandy, no, Joe, you can't watch a YouTube video and replace that hose on your own. That's a steep price. No, I mean, and that's the problem. Look, I used to be a mechanic, like freaking eons ago when Moses was a baby and cars were easy to work on. You know, I'm not a mechanic anymore. I do not have mechanics tools. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate everybody going. Well, you should have looked that up on YouTube. I mean, Cornell from Um,
No podcast.
yeah,
No.
no. Yeah,
Wait a minute.
no
What is
such
it?
thing podcast.
Yeah.
Colonel Hanratty, my good friend, did it, even though I can't say his name half the time. I mean, even he was like, "Oh, YouTube exhaust is easy," and I'm like, "Yeah, if you have a lift to put your car on, which I don't have a lift. I don't own a garage. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
a mechanical garage. I have 3 attached, but none of them have lifts in them, and I don't have tools. So yeah, you people can say, "Yeah, it's real easy to replace an exhaust." Sure, if I had everything I needed, but I don't.
Yeah.
So I have to go this route, man. I
Hmm.
have to let the mechanic do it. So yeah,
People always yell at me because I say I take my vehicle to the dealership to get serviced. Oh, you're spending so I am spending a lot of money doing that, but they have all my shit, all my records, and I
yeah.
know I'm guaranteed if some shit goes wrong, they be paying for that. You know, so that's just the way it
I
is.
mean, I understand that there's lots of men out there that got their tools in their garage and blah blah. Well, I'm not one of them, man. I mean, the mechanic days are long past me now,
Hmm.
and so I mean, there's people that make a living doing that, and unfortunately, I have to employ those people sometimes, man. And it just happens that this is going to be an expensive one, man. But it's an expensive vehicle. That's the thing, It's a QX60 Infinity. I mean, so it's the price you
Yeah.
got to pay sometimes, man.
Hmm.
But luckily, I mean, the mechanic that we use, because the dealership will totally rape you.
Oh yeah, I know.
Um, so the mechanic that we use is a local mechanic, and he's a really good mechanic, a really good guy. And for the most part, he tries to do the best he can with keeping the costs down for his customers.
Yeah.
So, and he's a really good mechanic, and he's never tried to rip me off or anything like that. He's a good, honest mechanic, which I know they say honest mechanics are hard to find, but I don't really believe that. I mean, a good majority of mechanics are honest. The only time I feel like you're probably going to get ripped off really is the dealerships, man. I mean, dealerships are a totally different thing, man. And I always advocate, man, to support your local businesses, man. So your local mechanic that's down there trying to make a living working on vehicles, if he can possibly do it, take it to them, man, because they can probably fix just about anything the dealership can.
Hmm.
If they can't, usually they'll say, "Well, you're gonna have to take this to the dealership because we can't deal with this."
Right.
But yeah,
Oh, it's all ugly.
yeah, and this guy is easy too because like there's been times where it's been a little more than what I thought, and I'm like, "Ugh, I can pay you this now, and then do you mind if I come back when you can
Hmm.
pay again and pay you the rest?" And yeah, it's fine. Don't
Yeah.
worry about
Yeah, that's one thing, you
it.
can't deal with the when you go to a dealer.
No,
You
uh-uh.
have to pay up front, and that's
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, I don't know.
But yeah, good advice, folks. But sorry, I can't do it myself. Otherwise, I would. I mean, anything that I can do myself, I do. If I can't do it myself, then well, I gotta hire somebody.
Yeah. Everybody's got to get a little piece of the pie.
Yeah, yeah,
A little piece of that pie. Well, I don't have much pie left by the end of the month.
yeah. It's like with the furnace thing, man. I mean, I didn't know what was going on with that thing.
Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah,
that.
true. I could have Googled it if I had known that it was the if I had known that it was the igniter that was
Right.
bad. Then yeah, I could have Googled how do I place an igniter in my such and such furnace, and it would have
Yeah.
showed me, and I could do it. Well, I wasn't able to do that, so the guy had to come
Hmm.
in, and yeah, I had to pay like 200 and some odd dollars when it was all said and done, just
Yeah.
for him to basically come in, diagnose it, come back, and put the igniter in, which is pretty easy. I mean, I watched him do it, so if it ever happens again, yeah, you bet your ass I can do it next time. If my igniter
Yeah.
ever goes out, I'm like,
You know
I'm not
how.
calling somebody.
Right.
I will just pull it out. I will order the part or find the part, and then I will replace it because it's easy to do. So
Yeah.
you live and you learn.
You do. You do. Even at our age, you learn. You learn a little bit here and there. Good morning, Mr. Lee. Good morning, Caucasian. Welcome. Little morning coffee. Make sure you guys have your coffee in the morning. Susie, I hope you stopped at Starbucks. She spent her first night in her new home last night, but
Ooh.
when you move, all your furniture's not there yet, so you end up camping out in the living room. I think that's what they did last night.
Now, is it a new house or it's a new house to her?
No, it's a new house to her. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a new house to her. Um, Good morning, Jen.
So there's chances it might be haunted. How old is the house?
It's a little bit older,
Yeah.
but probably still newer than the one she had. So, but I'm just glad,
Yeah.
she found something good. And
Yeah.
um, good morning, Jeffro.
This one I'm sitting in was built in the late 1800s. So
Oof, yeah, no, it's not that old.
no
That's
ghosts.
pretty
No
old.
ghosts, though, man. No ghosts.
No ghosts.
I was
Yeah.
real disappointed, man, because, I don't believe in ghosts. And I figured, well, if I get a haunted house, man, maybe, there'll be something that convinces me. I'm like, if they're real and I have an old house, I hope they're haunted. Nah, not a thing.
No, I don't want it haunted. I mean, we built this house from the ground up, and I still end up getting some spirits in here from the groundbreaking around us. And but I mean, I got rid of those. Those came and went really fast. It was really a weird thing, but um
But
anyway,
I always envisioned, me in a haunted house would be kind of like, and I know I'm dating myself here, and maybe a lot of people in the chat might not even know what I'm referring to, but I always thought it'd be like a Ghost and Mrs. Muir kind of situation. It's like I get a ghost here. He's nice and friendly. He's always popping up, talking to me, and
yeah.
giving me advice. And we get into adventures together. Me and the ghost. But
Right. Right.
nope,
Yeah.
nothing. Not a squeak, not a rattle, nothing. I
Nothing.
mean, I don't even hear the house creaking and groaning. By just settling.
I think
So
by this time it's done settled. It's
probably,
done.
yeah. I mean, it's unsettling. It ain't settling any further. Yeah.
Man. Let's see. What does she say? Actually, this house has no spirits in it at all. And I don't know why I don't understand it. But all the other houses that we went to see, as soon as I stepped in, I was aware of a lot of things. So, yeah. Well, I'm good. At least you can have a clear mind. You can haunt it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what I told Ma. I said, well, there ain't no haunting here, but when I go, man, this place can be haunted as hell. If there's such a thing as the afterlife and I'm in it, dude, I'm hanging around here. I'm going to be like throwing shit out of cupboards. Whoever has this house after I'm gone, yeah. If it's a possibility, I'm going to haunt the shit out of those people.
Look out. The warning has been laid.
Every time they go to try to light some sage, I'll blow it out. That sage,
You just
I'll
had
be
that image go through my head.
so give me that sage. I'll put some of it on my turkey.
Man. That's funny. That is. Let's see, 9:30, so 8:30, or no, my sister's on the same time right now. So I hope that move is going well for her. And things are happening, folks. Things are happening. So I'm sure a lot of you have now heard that I will be interviewing Rick Dyer again.
Oh,
He's
are
going to
you?
be, yeah, the things have been finally settled. The dots have been put, the T's crossed. The date has been set for December 10th. It is a Saturday show, folks. Okay. It's going to be a double hitter. Saturday and Sunday, I'll be doing two shows. But his show is going to be with our own Steve Coles. So he will be involved in the whole thing. So we've ironed everything out. It took a little doing. But it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen before Christmas. So I'll probably need a break after that. Might take the rest of the time, the rest of December off. Who knows? No, I
Yeah.
can't stay away. I say that, but I probably can't stay away. So you'll start seeing the promos. All the homework time starts, and yeah, Pine Island said Saturday nights. All right for fighting. Yep, it's gonna be Saturday night
I
fight
don't
night.
know. Don't you
So
think a good part of the fight has been taken out of Rick Dyer, though?
never, no,
Never? You don't think so?
mm-mm, nope. Not if you talk to him now. Nope.
I mean,
Ask Jeff, bro. Ask Jeff. Yeah.
ain't none of the wind gone out of them sails, huh?
No, 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 no. Oh, why does that not want me to down
That's incredible, man.
that?
It's incredible. You know. And the thing is, man, we've said it before. It's like it's amazing because
Oh,
it's like the boy who cries wolf, right? We know, it's like you're a hoaxer, man. So, if he ever actually did get some real Bigfoot stuff, man, nobody would believe him anyway. It's
oh
like you
yeah,
cried
yeah. Nobody's gonna believe him.
wolf too many
But
times, man.
yeah, he just has this way of talking. He just has a. If he can get any individual person by themselves to talk with them, he could probably convince you the world was ending today. You know.
Yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
just is. But uh for those of you who are here right now, we got about 17 people here today. You're gonna get the first look at the first promo that's gonna be going out. Um, so
I
here it
gotta,
is.
I gotta get a
What?
cup of coffee. Hang
Okay.
on.
Hold on. I'll wait. Just my coffee's cold already too. Ooh. Ugh. I like cold coffee. I like frappuccinos, iced coffees. But I don't like it when my hot coffee turns cold. That's weird, right? I don't know. Anybody else? Is that weird? Um, so we're gonna wait for him before I pull that up. Oh my God, Sandra, you don't know how busy I've been. I have been trying to work my ass off trying to get my subs up because I have this image of where I want to be and I think I have the potential, but I'm just felt like I wasn't doing enough. So I have been outsourcing to different things. I have even more news other than the Rick Dyer thing that just kind of popped up. Thank you, Jeffro. Um, but I've been kind of, you guys have seen me on the Morning Mojo with JoJo show, just jumping in there and chit chatting with him. Well, he recently asked me to be a part of his JoJo Bones show, which is he does download it onto YouTube, but it is on a radio. It's a radio podcast that gets downloaded on KBSR radio. So I'll be now part of his panel, which is just Jojo Bones, Enzo Surreal, and now myself. So that's something new that's coming up. And those are pre recorded shows because, it's a radio format that he's got going. And I think he downloads those on Fridays and Saturdays. He takes like a 2-hour show and drops it into two different segments. Um,
Okay.
so that's going to be happening. Kind of excited to do the radio show type of deal because now you really have to explain everything. Like I had this conversation with Jeff, I believe that when you do the podcasting where you're on, maybe it was Steve, and you're on Spotify or Amazon Music or whatever, you need to talk about everything you see because people can't see what you're talking about.
Mhm.
So it's kind of hard for like my podcast. I show a lot of visuals, so I would
Yeah,
literally have to explain everything I'm showing.
yeah. I, yeah. I, yeah.
But
tried the
anyway,
Spotify thing. I haven't really kept up with it though.
mhm.
I don't think I've put up any new episodes or anything on it here recently at
Did
all.
you get a lot of views off of that?
Well, that's the thing is I just started it, so I wasn't getting a lot anyway. So
Mhm.
and now I just haven't kept up with it. So,
Right.
but I mean, then again, I mean, I'm not trying to be a professional podcaster, right? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
to me, this is just a means to an ends for me,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, I'm not doing all because all of that stuff takes time and dedication,
Oh
and
yeah.
I mean, and I don't have all that kind of time and stuff to dedicate to just that. I mean, that's why I just have the two podcasts, and I'm not trying to you know bust into the podcast scene and get like
Right.
thousands of freaking followers, because
Mm-hmm.
for me, my podcast is just getting my voice out there, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Right. Right.
and and like, well, with Sasquatch Random Live, it's getting out those faces um, that are out there trying to do, real research, basically. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's to an end to me, but
Yeah. No, you're right, Mr. Lee. He doesn't do Sasquatch. He does everything. Everything. He talks about paranormal, everyday life, politics. Many of you probably don't even know. I used to do a political show. Like 5 years ago, I used to be on a podcast that was just political based. So I've put my toe into a bunch of different places already, and I'm looking for more. A little more conversation. I do have the time, so it is a lot of work, but I think I'm ready to do that. For a while, I thought, no, why am I doing all this? But it's I don't know, it just fits me pretty good. So we're gonna run with it and see where the show goes, and I'll try to promote him. He tries to promote me. It's just a give and take, it should work out great, and go from there.
yeah,
Um, you can't ever have too many friends,
yeah,
and they automatically felt like friends. So that's
yeah.
what we're gonna go with that. But
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I'm actually, I'm more busy promoting everybody else I like, and really not. I'm promoting them more than I'm promoting myself. But that's the way I designed it, is basically to promote people. Not
yeah,
really myself so much, but
mhm,
other people like you, people like Steve, people,
mhm.
Brent, Alex, and who, by the way, is going to be on my show the 2nd of December. We're doing a special Sasquatch Random Live on Friday, December 2nd. So this
Yes,
Friday.
awesome. Yeah,
But
he's a,
yeah, it's more for me. It's more about promoting others than actually promoting myself. Really,
yeah.
I like doing that.
Well, okay, so here it comes, folks. You're gonna get to see the first promo that's gonna drop with Rick Dyer. Matter of fact, I have to send this to him too because he's waiting for it. So there it is. One of many. I think we're gonna have a couple different ones before the time is up. Who's bringing the ice?
Well, Bat Mom, that's a good question. She says, Joe, you created that way, LOL, or it just became like that. Um, no, my intention when I first originally was that, but it did become that. Yeah, I guess in a way. Yeah.
Hmm.
And that, I mean, that's Sasquatch Random Live. That's what that whole format's really supposed to be about, is promoting good researchers and investigators and things like that, talking about Bigfoot. Um, the other show, Joe asked, "Wait a minute, what?" That's just totally something different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, although I do use that, have used it in the past to promote others, but mostly it is about just weird shit that makes me go, "Wait a minute, what?" you know.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes it good that you have somewhere you can talk about other stuff.
Yeah,
Because if I have something I really want to talk and it's not Bigfoot related, then I can always do a late night show you
Right.
know, do whatever I want. Or like this, you know, morning hijinks. Usually I'm out running around doing errands or doing something when I pop on. And everybody's well aware I don't download those. Those do not get published. They're just if you're on one of my lives when I'm out and about doing something, you just happen to see that because sometimes I play up music in the background, so they always get dinged with some
Yeah.
kind of some kind of strike, and sometimes I'll say something, you know, that I don't really want it to stay out there.
Right.
I,
Yeah, and that's my mistake too. I don't do anything like privately. It's like everything that I've ever said or done or whatever, it's out there, man. I mean, it's like,
yeah, yeah. So that's the one place I sometimes I'll cut loose, and you can catch me saying something sometimes, but they're not published. That's just my choice. Everything else is pretty much you guys all know about.
yeah, that's funny because I'm like, yeah, and I get that, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my way my brain works or whatever. I'm like, I publish everything, and it's like all the warts and everything goes along with it, man. And I'm like, might as well publish it. What the hell? Cat's out of the bag. So as it is. So what you get is what you get.
Oh
It's
man,
funny. Man.
it's gonna be crazy, crazy going into the holiday season here. Thanksgiving's already, boom, gone.
Yeah, I got people cut already. Here it is, just the 30th of November, man. I've already got people wishing me a Merry Christmas, and it's like, okay,
It just, yeah,
same
I
to you,
haven't gotten the Christmas
same to you.
spirit yet, but I have a feeling I am going to get the Christmas spirit this year. It's just, you know, it's
I don't
coming,
have it. I don't
coming.
have it. But it's and it's not. It's not because I dislike it or whatever. It's just I don't know. Just not in a mood for it, man. This year, really.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't really care anymore. When I was a kid, that was different. Kids. But
Hmm.
now that I'm older, I don't really give two craps about getting presents. I really don't. Um, I mean, I
Yeah, my
like
husband and I have already gotten that way because it's like, God, he has everything already. You know, what am I going to get him that he doesn't get for himself? So
right. And that's the
try
thing
to
with me and
focus
my
just
old
on
girl. I was like,
the
"Hey, hey, I
kids
know she
and,
needs some new slippers. That's all I know. It's because
oh my God.
she had this favorite pair of ratty ass slippers, and then the dog chewed them, and so they finally had to go in the trash. So I know I got to get her some new slippers. But and that's the thing is, I know I'll get her presents, but I guess what it is, the thing I'm not in the mood for is the decorating part. It's just I'm not,
I love
it's
to
like
decorate my house inside, and I love to
drag the
have
tree
lights.
inside, put the tree up, decorate the
Yeah.
tree, keep the tree alive for the next 7 months. I mean, and then
Uh,
drag it out and pine needles all over the place, and it's like
mhm.
I just don't
Shit,
want to
even my old plastic tree is losing needles.
I know it's not a bitch, right?
It's like, holy crap, it's almost time to get a new tree here, you know?
Yeah,
They're
that's
so
the
dang
funny part.
expensive.
Things are getting bad when your fake tree loses needles.
Losing needles, right? I'm like, it's as bad as the real tree. So I don't know. We'll see that my tree's not going to make it too much longer. I think I bought it in 2000 and would have been 2003 or four. So it's old. It's an old tree, but it was a well made tree. So it's held
Yeah,
up. It's held up.
yeah. We had a pretty nice artificial tree. I don't even know if we have it still. If we do, it's upstairs in the closet. But the last couple of years, we did real trees because Molly, well, let's get a real tree. So,
Uh, I
but
don't know if I have the energy to do a real tree.
yeah, man. So
I but it's good. I mean, I usually have a big tree in my living room, and then a smaller 6 foot tree near the front door, and then my dining room table always has a little mini tree. So it's really cool. I like how my house is situated, so I can decorate like that. So
get a little Christmas forest going on.
mm, for sure,
So,
yeah, I love it. I'd have more trees. I would buy a new tree of different sizes so I can have different trees all over the house. That would be fun.
Yeah, till one
And
day
then, then what I would do when I replaced
Sasquatch comes
this,
popping out of one of them. Hey,
oh, I do. I have all
Ariel.
my Sasquatches surrounding the bottom of the tree.
There you go.
And because what I want to do is when I replace this tree I have, is I'll move that tree out to the front porch. And I won't put any ornaments. I'll just keep the tree with the lights on it outside. And then I'll have one out there and then all inside. It'll look cool when the
Yeah.
time comes. When it's time to kick that tree out. I'm not gonna throw it out. I'm just gonna use it for outdoors.
Yeah. Last dozen years or so, or not even a dozen. I guess it's well, yeah, because we even did it when we were still living in Virginia. I mean, I went the lazy route, and I went, instead of putting the lights on a house and all this, because if I were to do that, I'd be the same typical redneck. You'd see them up all year round. I put them up once and then leave them up. So I didn't want to do that. So
Mhm.
for the last dozen years or so, I guess I've been doing the projection lights.
Oh yes.
On the
Yeah,
house.
I
It's a
have
lot
one of those
easier,
too.
but I'm too lazy to even do that this year. Well,
Well, our issue is that we had a lot of people stealing them in El
yeah,
Paso.
yeah,
And you need to have it far enough out to do a good projection. So
right,
it's not like you can't have it near the house. You have to
right,
have it out there.
yeah,
And people were reporting them being stolen left and right. And I'm like, fuckers, how can I, tack this thing down? Maybe I can put a pin or something in the cement and cement a pin and then hook it. I was trying to
yeah,
come up with all kinds of ways of don't steal my shit, people.
yeah,
Same
yeah,
with my Halloween decorations. I
yeah,
every year I wait. I don't put my decorations out till about a week before
yeah.
because I don't want people stealing my stuff. Ugh,
That's the one good thing about living out here where I live. I mean, none of my neighbors are going to. I mean,
yeah.
where I'm at is fairly rural, and it's just a little hamlet. There's only a
Mhm.
few houses around me, really,
Oh yeah, so you
and
can do that.
so I don't really have to worry about that, about people stealing anything. I've never had it happen so far. And yeah, I've had, in order, if I put up those lights, those projection lights, I have to have them at the edge of my yard,
Mhm.
projected on the house to get a good projection. But I've never had anybody try to take them or anything like that. So that is the one good thing about living rural, man.
Mhm.
You can trust your neighbors a little more, I think. So,
I we finally have all the houses that are around me now because we were the first ones in this area. So that's when I really didn't want to put anything up because the main road you could see our house. We were the only one here. Now the whole neighborhood has developed, so I feel more comfortable and everybody's putting up lights now and so now I can do that. But shoot, last year it cost me a couple $100. Not last year, the year before that, a couple $100 just to get somebody to put our lights up because my husband wasn't going to do it. You know,
right.
not only did he not have time, is that, not the best at doing that. He gets really mad with those little things that you have to hook to the side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can relate.
it's just not for him, not for him. And I don't blame him. I don't want wouldn't want to do it either. And but they look really good, and I paid, this guy to do it, but he didn't come and take them down, and my husband wouldn't take them down, so here I'm just yanking on the damn thing, and half the little clips are up on this one side of the house. All year, the little clips stayed hanging there but I pulled down the lights.
Yeah. Yeah. Me,
But
as like I said, man, if I had to put lights actually physically on the house, man, them things would never come down. Just don't turn them on.
yeah.
unless it's Christmas.
Man, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it is fun. I mean, it is fun. It's nice, when you get it all done and it all is done and you look at it, it's so pretty. And yeah, that's nice and everything. It's just such a pain in the ass to get it that way. And then afterwards, then you got to dismantle all that crap, man.
Oh yeah, that's the
Uh,
always the worst part. My Halloween stuff stayed packed right here in the hallway. forever because nobody would help me take it to the garage. Because the way my system in my garage, we pull stuff out, we put stuff in. Okay, now it's this time I use this, and then so it's like a chore to do that. Uh, mm, that's really mean. Watching those kids get a running start before they kick it. Oh my god, poor kids. Poor
That's Jeff
kids.
for you. Always trying to start trouble. Always trying to start trouble.
Donald, are you ignoring me? I'm hurt and upset. People around here have those inflatable Santas in a spaceship, Santa in a bathtub, Santa in an outhouse.
Oh, I'd love this Santa in a house one. I had
That's
an inflatable I was putting up on the year, up on the roof. Well, one of the roofs here. I got a small one outside um, that I can climb out on, and I put. We had an inflatable Grinch in the chimney thing. I put that out
mm,
for a couple of
yeah.
years there.
I love those ones where it looks like they put the tree with like Santa with the tree on top of the roof, and it looks like the tree is coming through the roof.
Yeah,
Have you seen
yeah,
those? And then they have the part inside the window. You're supposed to put it like in front of a window so
right,
that it looks like the
right,
tree's halfway in the house. I
yeah.
love it. I love that one. It's so clever. And of course, Grinch. I love the Grinch
Yeah,
stuff.
I like the car. I never really did much like the movie with Jim Carrey, but I love the traditional cartoon of the Grinch. It's so
Hmm.
good. That
I
one I like.
didn't think he did a bad job. I liked his flamboyant, Grinch. I liked that.
Yeah,
It's funny.
I don't know. I get it. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
fault anybody for liking the movie, but I'm from the old school, man. I like the
So
old
you like,
cartoon, the traditional cartoon.
yeah,
There's a
green
thing,
egg.
and I laugh like a loon every time I see it. Doesn't matter how many times I watch it. When that little dog is out in front of the sled, and the sled runs over the little dog, and he pops up on the back of the sled, and the Grinch is looking for him, and looks back, and the dog's back there like, "Hi." Cracks me up, man. It
Yeah.
just cracks me up. I mean, it's the same thing with the Wizard of Oz. Every time the freaking cowardly lion goes running down the hallway and jumps out the window, that cracks me up every time.
Look at what Jeff said. This time of year, when I'm done archery hunting, I wrap my deer decoys in lights and put them in the yard. Christmas decorations. Voila. Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
freaking Jeff and his, and his decoys doing double duty as decoration.
Oh my God. That is hilarious.
You ought to get one. You ought to get.
I can
You ought
totally see
to
it. It's just I'm very
attach
visual this morning.
Jeff. What you should do is attach those deer to a sleigh, and then have one of them laying down in the yard with an arrow in its side, and then Santa standing there looking over it crying.
You're gonna get some kids crying. Don't do
That would be awesome. Santa weeping over the reindeer getting shot with your arrow.
that. Oh, jeez. Hope you don't live in an HOA.
Right.
Oh, jeez. Uncle Buck and planes, trains, and automobiles.
I used to do that almost every year around Christmas time. Is I would post a letter from Bubba to Santa, and I would write this. I would write this letter to Santa from his redneck friend. I haven't done it this year, but
Oh, that sounds interesting. Howdy. That's
forensic
good.
mystics. All right.
Yeah. I've been trying to get over to that show to watch more, but it's always during last night. I swear I was watching three podcasts at the same time
I was trying to.
because I was finding them all. I just wanted to be. all over, and
Yeah,
it was crazy. I kept seeing people too doing the same thing. I think I saw Gary Spikes in like two or three
yeah,
of the ones I was
yeah.
going to. I'm like, Gary, are you doing what I'm doing?
Yeah, I was trying.
Trying
I
to
was
fish.
trying to watch Jeff's show, um, Mogs' show.
Yeah,
No, not Jeff's show. Who was I watching last night?
it was it,
Mogs, Bigfoot and More,
Steve, Pat. Pat
and
was
Pat
on. Yeah,
show. Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm like trying to pop in between all three of them.
Right. I think
Yeah,
Mr. Lee did it. I think there was a bunch of us that were jumping around last night. Because there was like nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom, everybody was on. So it was like, oh
yeah,
dang.
yeah, yeah. Pat's, I was like, well, if he's going to get Alex on, then I'm going to stop watching at this point because Alex is going to be on my show on
Oh
second.
yeah, you want to be fresh.
I'm like,
I know, but Alex is going to be on a bunch of shows,
oh yeah,
so we're
yeah,
gonna just. But it's okay. He's promoting
yeah.
his deal
And
there. So
and he's a return guest to my show. I've had him on
Mhm.
a couple other times before, but but I did want to talk to him about this newest thing that he's doing, etc.
Right.
So, and I sprung it on. Well, it's how old my brain is, man. Is that I'm asking Alex. At first, I said, "Well, can I get you on a show sometime?" And so I'm telling him Friday, watch Random Live. Friday, set it up, blah blah blah. And I go, "But that's not my Friday show, you dumbass. My Friday show is freaking." Joe asked, "Wait a minute, what?" And then I'm like, "Well, crap! Now I've already done all this." So I'm okay. So now I'm gonna have to make it a Friday special edition
Yeah.
of Sasquatch Random Live. And then I tell Jen, I'm like, well, you'll be doing Sasquatch Random Live with me on Friday instead of our show
Yeah.
because that's the way it worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way it worked out. But see, you can do that. You own your show. So you can do whatever you want.
And, yeah, Jen was
Do
like,
whatever you want.
no, there she is. Yeah, there she is. Jen was like, well, I mean, I could just not, but, and I was like, no, 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 no. You have to be there because I've already put your name in the description. But you're gonna be there with me, so now you have to. So
You're locked in. Too late. Can't turn back now. It's all good.
but, yeah, it's all fun, man. It's all fun.
It's
I
funny
always
because
get, I
right after,
always end up getting confused sometimes with the times. It's like, it's like, oh, it's on 8 o'clock. No, it's 7 o'clock. No, wait, Mondays, and I'm like, wait a minute, on Mondays I'm what now? Wait, eight? No, it's 7 because Jeff's on at 9, and we keep it regulated that way.
you need to have a big old listing of all this,
Yeah,
this is what's going
and then, but yeah, so 7 Mondays at 7, Fridays at 8. So
It was funny because right after Pat's show, Alex texts me and he says, I saw your comment and it made me laugh. And I'm like, because I had put on there, he recently got engaged. And I had said,
Alex,
yeah.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
on the comment, I said, Alex has broken the hearts of thousands of single women all over the world. Congratulations on your engagement. He goes, I saw that and it made me crack up. But Steve didn't I mean Pat didn't see it in the comments, so it just kind of, went on
yeah,
its way.
yeah.
Morning,
I
Jake.
told, I told him, I said, in the comments under there, I said, what? I was like, what's wrong with that girl?
I did, and I missed that one.
What's wrong
So
with her?
that's funny.
You're getting the best beard in all of Squatchdom, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
He
got
does.
strong beard power.
I always tease him about stuff like that.
Hey, Jay.
Hi, guys.
How is your
What's up?
morning?
My morning has been uneventful.
It's already noon there now, right? Yeah. 10, 11,
Yeah,
12.
very uneventful. I like these morning shows.
Yeah.
I
I'm starting to like them.
do too. I get up and get me some coffee and kind of scan what I missed during the night,
Right.
and it's nice to get on for an hour or so of a morning. Get the day going, you know. I get up and do my chores around I need to get done, you know. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
An hour? You're an amateur, man.
An hour. What do you mean? An hour? What was
I spend more than an hour.
yeah.
If
Well,
I'm not working, I'm usually here in front of the computer. It's true. It is.
Yeah.
Well, I got actually 3 dogs to take care of, and then I wanted to finish up some vines were growing on my fence back here, and I wanted to get all those vines off my fence and out of my trees. So I do that while it's still cool in the morning, you know.
Yeah.
And
Mr. Lee.
but I'm going to move back down to the Fort Myers area. Too many memories in this house. I got to get away from it, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I've been living here by myself. Other than I got a lady, Becky, and her daughter living on the other side of the house now, and they decided they want to buy the house. So
Awesome.
when they're having a little trouble getting financing, but they're talking to Becky's talking to her mother, and it'll work out. We'll figure something out because they really want my house, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I'm not hurting for. God, I hate to say this. I'm not hurting for money. Okay, so it's not like I'll make them a good deal on the house.
I wouldn't hate to say that, Jerry. That's
That's great.
it's good not to be hurting for money.
Well, I don't. I hate to. I'm not. I'm very humble when it's stuff like that. Okay, I try to be at least.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. You worked for it all your life, so
Right.
All my buddies. I had a really bad day Sunday, and I called my buddy down there in Fort Myers area where I'm from, and he came up and we talked, and he said, "Jay, the only way you just got to get on. You got to move on. You got to the best thing you do, sell the house." And so he's offered to let me move in with him for a while till I can relocate everything, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll just put everything in storage, and when I find another place, I'll pack, you know.
what part of the country you gonna go to? You gonna stay in Florida?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm staying down here. I'm just going to go back to the Fort Myers area, actually 17 miles inland. I won't be right on the coast, but
Mm-hmm.
Well, my mother used to live in Punta Gorda.
yeah, beautiful town. Punta Gorda is gorgeous. I mean,
I thought that's where you were. This whole time I thought you were near Fort Myers.
no. I moved here in Sebring 5 years ago, and 6 months after I moved into this house, my wife passed away.
Mm.
I've been here by myself ever since, you know.
Right. Okay.
And I've tried to make friends, but I'm a very private guy. Okay?
Uh-oh. Something's happening. Morning, Jeff.
Hey,
Who's
I
got
don't know.
that hat on?
how's it going?
Hey, brother.
Mr. Rock and roll.
How's Jay doing today?
Jay's okay. Jay's okay today. Jay's okay.
Jay looks good today.
Thank you.
So does Joe and Nikki.
What Jeff's not saying is that is his actual house behind him.
He ran out and took a picture.
No, I found a picture of the Clark Griswold house, so I put it behind me.
Can you imagine what the electricity bill on that is?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We watch that movie every year while we decorate the tree, and that's usually the day or two after Thanksgiving. So we were watching it the other night, and before I started, I was like, man, we got to watch this movie again. Like, I've seen it 50, 100 times, right? Yet I'm sitting there on the couch just laughing my ass off the whole way through still. I mean, I think I could watch it 1,000 times and still laugh at that movie.
Same thing with Christmas Story for me, man. I laugh at that
Yeah.
movie every time I watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, fudge.
Fudge.
But I didn't say fudge. I said the word, the F
Did you see the new one?
dash word.
Joe, did you see the new one that came out?
No, I did not.
The Christmas story or whatever it was, where he's
Did
grown up. They brought back everybody
they?
Oh, did they?
except the
Scott
mom was
Farkas.
yeah, the mom was different. The dad had died,
Yeah.
and
McGavin.
but
Yeah,
all,
Darren McGavin,
all his buddies were on there, and it was neat, seeing them. They're all old now.
I heard the one kid that played the one bully went into porn.
No, he's a police officer.
Oh, is he?
He ended up being the cop. Farkas? Is it Farkas?
Yeah, I think it was
Yellow
the,
eyed,
Farkas.
yellow
was
eyed.
the redhead kid or
Yeah, Scott Farkas, and then he had
Yeah.
the little miniature kid next to him that was
the
his
little
side.
miniature kid.
Yeah. He was
You
the
know, those
town.
two, they always reminded me of the bulldog and the little dog in the cartoon.
Yeah,
What are we doing today, Spike?
Yep.
and it's always the little one that's egging the big one on, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that show when the boys wouldn't eat, and she's like, "Show me how the little piggies eat," and they shove their faces in the.
Yeah.
McGavin, he was infatuated with that lamp, wasn't he?
Oh God.
I have one of those because of that.
Fragile. Must be
Yeah,
French.
Fragile.
That's
I
the only
still
reason
say that.
That's the only reason I have a leg lamp is because of that movie, man. Everybody
And
sees
I'm
it. I
rapping gigs,
go,
I still say that.
it's a major award.
So many great one-liners off of
Yeah.
that one movie,
Yeah, it must be Italian. It says fragile.
Fragile.
And that young,
Bumpus.
and the mama was always dressed that little and up in so much.
Oh, the pink bunny.
I can't pull down my arms.
That's
Yeah.
so hilarious. I can't put my arms down.
I think the funniest part was when his dad was downstairs or goes out trying to start the car and it won't start, and he says, "Some men are Baptist, some men are Catholic, but my dad, he's an Oldsmobile man." And his dad walks in and says, "That son of a bitch would freeze up on the equator." He yells.
Which one of them stuck his tongue to the pole and got his tongue stuck? Which one was that?
Oh, that was his buddy.
He had a nickname. It wasn't a real name.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
It had so many funny scenes
I
in it.
double dog dare you. Triple dog dare. Uh-oh.
That was
When you get the
completely
triple
skipping
dog
the
there.
etiquette.
Yeah.
So
I
crazy.
loved how his mom always told him he'd shoot his eye out if he got the Red Rider. And then he writes the big report and the teacher reads it and she writes on it, "You'll shoot your eye out."
Oh. Good.
And he goes out, and the first time he fires, it ricochets off something, hits him in the eye.
Yep, they were right. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Schwartz.
movie.
It was
Funny.
Schwartz.
Yeah,
Schwartz.
Schwartz.
Schwartz, that's his name. Yeah,
Tongue on there.
yeah. But that's funny because that really
Wait,
does happen, man.
like
It
acted.
does happen. I've gotten my tongue stuck to an ice cube tray.
When he has to put the Lifebuoy soap in his mouth because for the swear word.
Yeah,
He's talking about all the different kinds of soaps and kind of a nutty aroma and this.
yeah.
Like he's some connoisseur of soap, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Lifebuoy had a piquant flavor.
Yeah.
Well, Flick laid down the triple dog dare to Schwartz, but wasn't it Schwartz that had his tongue on the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
kind of mix the two up all the time. So
Yeah. Ah, triple dog dare you. Ooh, triple dog dare.
yeah.
When his mom says, Where'd you hear that word anyway? And he says, Schwartz. And so she calls his mom, and you can hear him getting his ass kicked in
Yeah.
the background on the phone.
No, mom, no.
Yeah, she says, you know where you're at? It's the old lady says, probably his father.
Ovaltine, yes.
Oh yeah, the Ovaltine.
The
Ovaltine.
secret decoder.
Crummy ad.
Don't forget to drink your Ovaltine.
That's right. Don't forget to drink your
Little Orphan Annie.
decoder. That's right.
Decodering. Matter of fact, Jeff, you made reference to the um, Red Ryder BB gun with the compass in the stock. The
Yeah.
other day, you made
Yeah,
reference
I
to
did.
that. That was funny.
I had one of those when I was a kid. First go. Well, it wasn't a Red Rider. Be honest. It was a Daisy.
Daisy
Yeah.
lever action like that.
Yep, Davy.
Yeah.
Yep,
Pretty
and that was
powerful when you first
that
got
was
them.
the first gun I ever owned in my entire life. Was that BB gun,
Mine
They were
too.
pretty
and
decent
I
when you
used to go
first got
squirrel
them,
hunting
but
with it.
after a while, after they were a year or two old, you'd do the lever action cock hunt and you'd shoot, and you could just see the baby just like go out about 50 feet and flop down. It's like, I
Well,
can't kill
that's
anything.
funny. The funny thing is that Daisy air rifle I had, you could pump it up, and you
Oh,
got
well, then that wasn't that stuff. I had one that was like the Red Rider one where you pulled the lever action
Mhm.
and click and then cock, and that was it. It wasn't a pump air rifle.
Oh, okay, yeah, because my Daisy, man, you could grab that lever and you,
Oh yeah, you could rack them up as many
and
times.
yeah, and they were very effective at hunting squirrel. They were powerful enough,
Yeah.
man. You could kill squirrel with them easy. So that was the first thing I ever used going squirrel hunting. Of course, later on, afterwards, I graduated to a 22 with the shot rounds, but to do squirrel hunting. But yeah, no, you could that Daisy, man, that was my pride and joy, man. When I was
The air rifle I have now looks like a modern day sniper rifle. Huge scope on.
yeah,
I bought it because we get so many squirrels, tons of squirrels, and I swear to
yeah.
God, you can shoot a squirrel every day for a month here. You can't put a dent in them. They reproduce like
The
rats.
important
They're
thing is,
basically rats.
Jeff, do you eat them?
So I was talking about this the other night on my show. I had shot this big, fat, meaty squirrel off of my
Sounds tasty.
bird feeder, and we hadn't gotten any. This last snow hadn't came, but it just snowed the other night. But I had put it out in front of my game camera because I did this last year one time, and surprisingly, I had a possum come and eat it.
Mm.
Which I thought, possums eat squirrels, and then I started looking up. Possum eat dead deer. They eat all kinds of stuff.
Eat anything.
So I put the squirrel out thinking this will be interesting to see what comes. For 2 nights, it was on there, and I had deer all over in front of my game cam because there's a deer trail in my backyard right where they come through. And deer after deer after deer. And finally, I'm going to show some pictures of it here, probably when I do my next morning show. Is I got a red fox there eating the squirrel. I got about 30 pictures of him. And I can't believe how bushy his tail is. Holy crap. This one has a huge bushy tail. But yeah, he sat there and ate the whole damn squirrel on the camera. It was pretty cool.
These bots are out too early.
I have eaten squirrel before. Not lately. I know if you're going to eat them, this is when it gets real cold out here. This is a great time of year to do it because they start getting pretty plump.
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, the older I've gotten, I just a lot of it has to do with laziness. I'll be honest, because I can buy my meat in a store.
As I say, if they got bottom round rows for $3.29 a pound, why are we eating squirrels? Right?
That's why I don't go hunting, because I can buy my meat, and that's the other part of it is that I've lost my desire to actually kill things. It's hard for me to kill animals now, because I like animals. But yeah, squirrels. Would I still eat squirrel if somebody gave me some squirrel stew or something? Hell yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I still fill about 4 deer tags a year, and I have an extra freezer in the garage. We fill it up with venison and I love making jerky and summer sausage and stuff. And I do that because I like eating that. And I can get each tag costs me with the state $35 for an archery tag. Yeah, it's not convenient, to go out and you shoot one on a day like today and you're out there when it's 10 degrees and you can't feel your fingers and you're trying to field dress it and everything else. Skin it out, bone it, do all the processing yourself. It's a lot of work, but in the end,
a lot of work.
It's an awful lot of really good meat as far as the loins and the roasts and the chops and the jerky.
And what does it taste like?
Oh, it's amazing.
Depends.
I mean,
Depends.
You take a venison roast and put it in a crock pot with a French onion soup or can of soup.
Oh, I thought you were still talking about squirrels. Sorry.
Oh,
well, that's funny when people say
squirrel doesn't taste a whole lot different
like
though
squirrel.
either.
It tastes like squirrel to me. I mean, I don't know. You can't say a squirrel tastes like beef or squirrel tastes like this it tastes like squirrel. I mean, it's meat.
It really is in all in how you prepare it.
Yeah.
Like a Canada goose. If I shoot a goose and clean it and roast it, it tastes like a goose. But if I take and breast it out and take those breasts and put them in a crock pot with like a cream of mushroom soup, it tastes like roast beef. I mean, it is literally grainy. Everything's the same. So it's a good example of type of meat that, depending on how you cook it, it will taste dramatically different. I would suppose squirrels, you put them in a crock pot and stew them up and make a stew. That's probably the classic way to do it. But if you were to roast one over a fire, and eat it off the bones, it might taste completely different.
Squirrels.
I've never actually done it that way. I mean, most of the squirrel we've eaten has always been in a stew.
Yeah.
You get the meat, you chunk it up, and you do it like you would stew beef.
Mm-hmm.
But
then I find myself watching I'll find myself watching the show alone, Joe, and you see those guys like fire roasting a rabbit or a squirrel, and they're sitting there eating. And I'm like, damn, I want to know what that tastes like, because I've had rabbit, I've had squirrel, like at game feeds. Everybody brings something different, right? And there's stews but just to throw one over a fire and roast it, I think would be fun just to see what it tastes like.
Yeah, roasted rabbit's pretty good, man. I can't eat them though anymore because I had a pet bunny one time called the Grinch. I can't eat rabbit anymore, but I can eat venison, man. I can't shoot a deer. I can't shoot a deer to save my life anymore, man. I just can't. I can't. But I can eat the venison if somebody else shoots it. Now, I don't know, that one buck that actually charged me, I could probably shoot that bastard, but
John Ayers just said squirrels are the chicken of the trees.
Trees. Oh my goodness.
But the deer meat, like you asked that question, the deer meat, I mean, around here, depends on what the deer are eating. Like if you go up in the mountains and you harvest a deer that eats nothing but wild plants and etc., it's going to taste totally different than a deer like down here in the valley that's eating basically the same thing the freaking cows are.
Yeah.
It's eating corn.
Around here, our deer are.
So, yeah.
Our deer are pretty much corn fed and soybean fed. I mean, that's all they eat around here.
Yeah. And
I love the way those deer taste.
A lot like beef.
I love the way those deer taste, but I've harvested deer in Alabama and Georgia too, where they're primarily acorn fed and whatever else nuts are falling off the tree. A lot different taste. It's got an acidic taste to the meat,
More what they call a gamier flavor.
Yeah. I think if you were to make it like in a crock pot with whatever, it probably wouldn't taste that much different. But when you're talking about cutting chops and put them on the grill or grilling loin chops or back straps, I mean, it does taste a lot different. But
did you eat a lot of Jay? A lot of squirrel?
I did not eat a lot. I sold all mine.
Yeah.
Squirrel is dark meat, Nikki. It's dark meat. It can get really gamey. Depends on eating. I never cared. I ate them, but I wasn't. I'd
Yeah.
much rather rabbit. Rabbit.
Plus, Jay grew up on a farm, and
Yeah.
when you grow up where you have pigs and this and that, I mean, a lot of you don't go to the store and buy meat when you've
No,
got
no,
cattle or pigs or some type
Mhm.
of livestock out there in
we
the
butchered
pen.
we butchered all our own meat.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how people, because like as opposed to us, when I was growing up, we're just a poor country family. We didn't own a farm, so yeah, good. And the cheapest thing you could buy meat wise back then when I was chicken, but we didn't have to worry about because we did have chickens. So eggs and chicken we didn't have to worry about, but the rest of a good portion of our meat came from what we could hunt. And so when people be like, "Oh, you ate that?" I'm like, "Yeah." What people don't realize is like because now everybody can buy their meat from a store or a butcher, and we have all this domesticated stuff. They forget, we as human beings used to eat all this stuff anyway, man, before all that, you know.
Right.
So it's no different from me growing up eating squirrel and rabbit and even woodchucks. Yes, I've eaten woodchuck. Almost everything that walks, crawls, flies, or swims, man, we ate,
Wow.
and it's all edible. And it's weird. It makes me laugh when people go, "Ew, you ate that." It's like, yeah. Have you ever eaten it? No. Well, then how do you know it's not good if you've never eaten it?
Jay, what's your favorite meat to eat other than beef, pork, and chicken? If you had to take the three main ones off the menu, what do you prefer as far as a favorite meal?
Uh, I liked just on everyday close to home type eating. I like to take a deer roast and I tenderize it overnight. You know, tenderize it, and then I'd put it in a slow cooker
Mm-hmm.
for 8 hours, and like you say, put French onion soup mix in there. It tastes almost exactly like beef.
Yeah. Really, you could, when it's done, when you use a French onion soup mix, the juice that's in it is like au jus sauce. So, I mean, you can make literally, just like French dips out of it to get some really good
If you
buns. And
if you take a deer roast and just like grill it and fry it, it'll be kind of stringy and tough.
Mhm.
But if you slow cook it, it makes it very tender.
Just falls apart.
It falls
Hmm.
apart like beef does. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I've
very.
always found it, just like Mr. Lee said. I don't know if I had some bad processed deer or what, or cooked, but I've always found that deer tastes way more gamey than anything.
Well, it depends on it's like Jeff said. It depends on where they feed at.
Mm.
Well, and there's another thing that depends on, and that's when you clean deer, depending on the cut of meat,
Right,
there is what's called silver skin. So
right.
let's say you take the back leg of a deer, you have all these different strands of muscle groups
Right.
that are basically like little miniature roasts that are all intertwined, right? Each one is wrapped in a little silver skin. It has like a silvery, shiny sheen on the outside of the meat.
Right.
Now, if I was to take a roast and take the time to just with the tip of a fillet knife make a little incision in the edge of that skin and just kind of peel that back and off of it, when you cook, not so much when you crock pot, because when you crock pot something or slow roast it, you're not going to taste anything different, anyways. But when it comes to grilling it or frying it, things like that, that silver skin is where a lot of the gamey taste is.
Mm.
I mean, when that's gone, you won't taste that.
And also, too, you got to cut that scent bag immediately.
Oh yeah,
You
that's
know,
all in the cleaning
you
of
got
the
to cut
deer.
that. If you don't cut that, I've seen guys that don't even cut them, and I wouldn't eat that if I had to.
Yeah,
But I've always loved elk.
Elk's
I've
very.
yeah.
always loved
Yeah, that's
elk.
what I was talking about when I said home. Because but elk is really good meat.
I used to shoot an elk every year. Now it's about every other year, just because I have to go. We go over to Montana and Wyoming when we hunt elk here,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't get drawn every year now. I mean, it's like you
Mm-hmm.
can put in every year. You'll get. If I archery hunt them, I can get a tag every year. But for the units that I prefer to hunt in, you don't necessarily get drawn every year.
Mm-hmm.
But elk, I've had moose. I've had I do shoot an antelope every year here in South Dakota, which is a lot. That's probably the most unique. Elk, moose, and deer. When you put those three things in a crock pot, there's a little bit of consistency difference in the grain of the meat, but the flavor is really going to be based on whatever type of soup mix or whatever you put in with it.
Right.
But antelope is a meat that these things are just speed demons. They spend most of their life running. Okay, so they're just
Mhm.
like, there's no fat. There is no fat in the meat. It's just, and it's like, if you were to grill antelope, you got to catch it right when it's that medium rare to medium, because once it gets a little past medium, it's like eating shoe leather.
Oh man.
It's just there's no what do you call it, marbling or anything in the meat grain,
Yeah.
My
But
favorite is, if I had to choose, is barbecued rabbit. Oh, I love barbecued rabbit. Oh, that's so good.
how do you make it? Do you bake it like in a dish, or
Barbecued rabbit.
yeah?
I clean them, of course, and I put them in a barbecue sauce and marinate it for like 24 hours.
Mhm.
And then I just put it on a grill.
Oh, so you grill it?
Grill it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good.
And then after I grill it, I tell you what I do a lot different. When I get my rabbit out of the marinade sauce, I take it and wash it all off. I wash the marinade off.
Hmm.
If you don't, it'll burn the meat.
Yeah, it just burns to it.
So what I do is I wash all the marinade off, and then I grill it, and then as it's getting done, I start basting it with barbecue sauce.
Yeah. That's the way I
Wow.
do ribs and other stuff too. I'll
Professional.
dry rub them with a seasoning
And
right away, and you
Mhm.
start grilling them. And when that meat's just about done being grilled, then you start brushing on the sauce, because really all I want the sauce to do is just kind of caramelize to the meat. I don't want it to get burnt and black.
When I grill chicken, I don't. When I grill barbecue chicken, I grill my chicken on the grill, and I'll turn the grill off. I'll turn the flame off, and I put my barbecue sauce on then, because the chicken is so hot, it's gonna caramelize just from the heat of the meat.
Mm. Now I'm hungry.
I
I haven't eaten breakfast yet.
Yeah, right. Oh,
I was
yeah.
reading what Donald was putting for his favorite recipes and stuff. One of the things I like to do with, and I'll even do it with steaks if it's not really like a really good cut of steak, like a ribeye or a strip or something. But I'll take really, and I don't spend a lot of money on the bourbon that I use. I'll marinate it overnight in bourbon, and like Ancient Age or something like that. The cheap bourbon, but it has to be like a really oak barrel, like strong oak barrel tasting bourbon. So if you put just a quarter cup of Ancient Age in a Ziploc bag and get the air out of it so that your steaks are in it overnight, when you grill them, they have kind of a dry oak barrel bourbony taste to them, and it's kind of unique. I wouldn't do it every time I grill a steak, but I think every now and then it's kind of fun. Another recipe that we do a lot is when we do chicken, or especially pheasant out here. We shoot a lot of pheasant in South Dakota. I'll marinate it overnight I'll make a marinade out of half Captain Morgan and half soy sauce. And you marinate poultry in that overnight and then grill it. That's really good too. I mean, it has you just have to try it. But the soy sauce gives it the sweet flavor, but that spiced rum of the Captain Morgan gives it a good flavor too.
I marinate a lot with Italian dressing.
Have you ever made Italian roast beef? Any of you guys? You take a crock pot and you put a roast beef in it and you put Italian dressing and you buy a jar of those pepperoncinis. They're like a pickled pepper that are already cut into like strips,
Yeah.
And you put a whole jar of that in there with it. And you cook it until it falls apart. So it's like French dips, but it really has a different Italian flavor. I think up in the New York area, a lot of the Italians up there do make that now and then. But
I'm sorry that I'm laughing and smiling, but I have to every time I hear somebody pronounce that word.
Pepperoncinis?
No.
Pepperoncinis or pepperoncinis? Did I say cini?
Italian. It's like I just say Italian, but everybody else is, you'll have other people go Italian. And it's to me, it's always been Italian. It's Italian. And so that's why I laugh, because of the way people have so many different ways of pronouncing different things.
I get laughed at on how I pronounce a lot of words, even something as basic as TV. I'll walk in the room and I'll say, "Hey, what's on the TV?" And everybody laughs. They're like, "It's a TV." And I'm like, I say TV.
TV.
You're putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong.
Yeah, I do.
syllable.
I do that a lot.
Hey, Joe, I say Italian if it's capitalized and Italian if it's not.
I think it's supposed to be capitalized.
Well, grammatically,
But
there's some protocol there that I guess.
Well, it's like people that live on the West Coast in Oregon, right? Mm-hmm. They pronounce it, as far as I know, they pronounce it Oregon. Mm-hmm. And people that are not from there always tend to go Oregon.
Oregon. There's a lot of Midwest states like that too. Illinois and Illinois. Missouri and Missouri. You live there, it's Missouri.
But it's spelled Missouri.
Yeah, but if you live there, it's Missouri.
They do the same thing up here in New York. There's some weird ass names up here that, it's like it's if we have a town spelled Avon. Now in England, that's Avon, right?
Avon.
Right. Not here. It's Avon.
Well, yeah, the makeup company put that in the.
But no. It's usually most people, Avon. People say Avon, but here we say Avon.
Avon.
It's Avon, New York.
I've talked about that before.
About Virginia the other day, because I didn't live too far from there. Staunton. It's spelled Staunton, but they pronounce it Stanton.
Stanton. It's the same way. It messed me up with Schuyler, Virginia. It's spelled Schuler. Schuler. S-C-H. Schuler. Yeah. But they say Schuyler. And it totally threw me off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The capital here, the capital of South Dakota is Pierre. And it's spelled P-I-E-R-R-E, which the French pronunciation would be Pierre, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. But it's pronounced like the little thing you walk out onto a lake, not a dock, but a pier, right? They pronounce, anybody who's not from here pronounces it Pierre.
Yeah.
And that's how it probably should be pronounced. But everybody here for over a century has called it pier. I mean,
well, that's how Staunton, that's how that all started, because that's how they knew that you were an outsider. Because if you said Staunton instead of Stanton,
you aren't around.
They can pick you out. They pick you out and they correct
Staunton, you're a damn Yankee if you say Staunton, because
they don't let you get away with that.
I wonder if somebody walked out on a dock one time and took a leak and said, the next time he went, he said, "I'm gonna go to the pier."
Yeah, I've always grown up calling them docks here. And I'm not
That's all
talking
I
about the
ever call
big things that you see down in the Gulf that go way out that a million people can stand on. I'm talking about, the thing you pull up and strap your boat to. It's 20 foot long.
The dock.
We call it a dock.
A dock, yeah.
If you're from Iowa, it seems like you call it a pier. Everybody there calls them piers. And I'm like, dude, have you ever been to Clearwater Beach in Florida or someplace like that where there's this gigantic boardwalk that goes out? That's a pier. A little
Santa
thing
Monica
like this
Pier.
is a dock. It's not a pier. But
Oh man, yeah, those are piers. Those Redondo Beach pier and the morning, Judy.
Yeah. That's like Molly and her pronunciation of the town was Batavia. It's actually just pronounced Batavia.
yeah.
But she
Whoa,
saw
that's
the sign
different.
and she's like, "Hey, look, it's Batavia." And I went, "Bat." I was trying to figure out what she was talking about. Like Batavia. Hey. And then it hit me, and I was like, "Molly, it's pronounced Batavia." She was like,
You
"I
know
don't know.
what's funny,
I thought
Joe?
it might be. I thought it might be Italian."
There are so many things in the Northeast, though, that for us, especially us Midwesterners and people up north central U.S., we just can't pronounce.
Yeah.
Literally last week, I was looking at lake homes in Maine, and because I was kind of interested in seeing what they priced at, and out of the probably 13 main lakes in Maine, I can't pronounce a single one of them. I mean, it's like Bamativa Pogidia Chaka. It's like, what?
Well, a lot of
You live on that lake,
yeah.
and then people say, "Where do you live?" It takes you like 30 seconds to go through the 28 syllables of the lake you live on.
It's a lot like that around here because a lot of the names are from the Seneca, and they're all indigenous. They're all Indian names. So
Yeah.
Where it is
Like
down here.
I'll see a place like, man, that's a beautiful home, a great lakefront. I love the dock there, but I don't know if I can live on a lake that I can't pronounce. I mean,
Oh shit, I'm looking them up now. They're crazy.
yeah.
You'd be surprised at how many people
Country.
don't
You
know
have
how to pronounce
Moosehead Lake.
Canandaigua.
You have
Look,
Moosehead Lake, Big
Moose
Moosehead, Little Moosehead. I can deal with those.
Moose Luke Meguntik. Moose Luke Meguntik. Kobse Kunte. Flagstaff Lake. What? Hey.
That's like
there's
there's
a
a
bunch
place
of it.
here, not too far away, that to say it, I mean to see it written out, which I can't even tell you how to write it right now, but the pronunciation is Skinnyatles. But it doesn't look that way when it's spelled out. But that's how it's pronounced. Skinnyatles.
There was a lake in Maine that I believe it was called Mattasunk. And I'm thinking, if you owned a boat and your name is Matt, would you really want to go on that lake? Matt has sunk. I mean, that Mattasunk was the name of the lake.
Oh man. Mesalonsky. I don't know. Mesalonsky. Menalonsky.
All our lakes down here are pretty much named after Indians,
Yeah. Chesuncook. I mean, I'm sure they all. That's cool.
We have a lot of
Demascara.
landmarks and stuff named after, a lot of the Sioux and the Oneida and different Indian tribes from the Midwest here. It's when you get up there in that Ojibwe country where the pronunciations get very difficult. And because I was looking in Maine, I thought, well, maybe Vermont, New Hampshire. You look at the lakes in Vermont; they aren't any easier to say most of those either. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of a Northeast thing. That dialect of language was really hard syllable pronunciations, as far as it doesn't just roll off the tongue easily for people who speak English. But
There were several Indian tribes already in Florida before they brought the Seminole down here.
Oh yeah,
That's funny you should mention the Oneida, Jeff, because that's what they were here in New York. They were part
Yeah.
of the
I'll be right
part
back.
of the Seneca or the Iroquois Confederation
hmm
of all the different tribes and that's what all the names are from up here. Is from those 5 tribes: Mohawk and the Cayuga, and
It's
I think
interesting.
all of the Finger Lakes are from Indians.
When
Indian
I
wars.
was,
Like, we have Seneca Lake, Oneida Lake, Cayuga,
yeah,
blah 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 blah.
when I was doing a lot of research for the Blood Run documentary that we're still working on, I really learned a lot about the different parts of the U.S. and the different tribes where they originated from, and how many of them where they were like 300-400 years ago, and they're still there today, right? Like
Mhm.
they didn't get ran out of their area. A lot of
Right.
when you talk about Florida and up the eastern seaboard and into the extreme northeast, into like from Vermont, New Hampshire over to Maine. And then when you look in the southeast areas, like in New Mexico and Arizona and stuff, those tribes really, where they originated, they didn't get ran out of their areas.
Mhm.
It's from basically New York through Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Dakotas. Those tribes warred over resources. A tribe could exist, and if another tribe was 300 miles away and they ran out of resources in their area, they came over and kicked the ass of the tribe next to them and displaced them and took over their area. Now that tribe that's displaced has to find a place to
Yeah.
go whoop on and take. And the amount of unrest that existed for centuries based on resources and tribes warring over resources is really quite crazy. That's how the Oneida ended up getting established eventually over in Nebraska, in the Omaha, Nebraska area.
Is that right? Yeah.
Is
Yeah. Well, that's how we got.
they'd whoop some ass and move to Illinois, and then they'd be in Wisconsin, and
Yeah.
eventually they're like, "Hey, it's
Yeah,
pretty
I
good
found
here."
out. Like I learned something about which I had never known. It's like, well, they lumped it as the Iroquois overall, but it was really, from what I understand, it's probably the Seneca, because the Senecas here were considered, or what were called, the keepers of the Western Gate
hmm
or the Western Door, because from like where I'm at west, it's all Seneca, and they still have like a large portion of that area. Like you said, it's called a reservation, but it's still been their land and stayed their land.
Yeah.
But from what I understood, they even went as far at one point as into Ohio and took
Mhm.
over places there. And that's how we actually ended up getting the Tuscarora Indians, who became the 6th tribe of the Iroquois Confederacy, because the Tuscarora were fleeing from the Cherokee. And they came up into New York, and then the Iroquois accepted them into their little group. And so, yeah.
Them
But
Cherokee were bad dudes, wasn't they?
apparently, they ran the Tuscarora out.
Yeah.
Tuscarora came up here, and
Well, there were so many tribes across this continent that really existed for literally centuries without really having a war history. They didn't need to. They had a big enough foothold, a big enough presence, a vast enough resource that didn't run out, that they were able to stay placed in that area and defend that area. But there's a lot of other tribes that, and that's why I think it's a little bit of a misunderstanding when people talk about before the white man came, especially out in the Midwest and moving westward, that everything was just rainbows and bubble gum, right? Like everything was so nice. And then like Bigfoot learned all these peaceful things from the Indians, and then we came along and screwed it all up, right?
yeah,
I tell you what, before any white man existed on the plains in the middle of this country, it was a violent landscape. And it was. When these tribes, when one would run out of resources and had no choice but to move out of that area, they were going to have to move to somebody's area. And it was not a friendly encounter. I mean, it was a. I would not have wanted to exist back then. There was just, you could go 10 years of everything's great, and then there's 2 years where your family and everybody else is wiped out, just over resources.
Yeah. Well, I think that was one of the good things. I mean, if you think about, how, we think of the indigenous tribes and, the First Nations as being primitive people, but they weren't that yeah, as far as their technology goes, sure, that was primitive, but as far as their concepts on certain things, they weren't primitive at all. They had advanced forms of government. I mean, think about just what I was saying, the Iroquois Confederacy. These different tribes got together and said, you know what, it'd be a lot better if we got all of us together under one umbrella here and helped each other, and it would make survival a lot easier, and they had a very complex form of government. In fact, they may have actually had, basically what they had was a democracy, really.
That's the one thing we discovered in looking at the Blood Run site that's on the border of South Dakota and Iowa. There was originally over 400 burial mounds there that belonged to like 16 different tribes from around the country. And each tribe had their own burial mounds. And the reason is because for a month every year, they would migrate here and trade with each other. This is like the New York Stock Exchange of North America for Native Americans was in this spot. And there was 2 tribes that existed there all the time. They just maintained the place, right? That was their home. But tribes from all over Ohio, Wisconsin, Montana, the New Mexico would come here. And when they'd send their elders and their warriors, their representatives, and they would meet, they'd be there for like a month. And they would talk about, they actually it was almost like a multi-government community, because they would work out differences in treaties. And if there was a war declaration to be made, the other tribes would try to intervene and try to talk them down, And they even eventually evolved into having like the Olympics there. They would, like, if 2 tribes couldn't get this thing settled, they'd have horse races, or they'd have different, and they would compete against them, try to settle it that way. And so they tried amongst, like, to govern each other and keep the peace. But there were times where it just didn't work, right? And if it didn't work, before they left, sides were picked.
Yeah.
And they knew who they could be friends with and travel along the lands of, and who they couldn't. And it was, so at that point, that was about 300 years ago. That got a little bit more peaceful as far as knowing at least where you could go and where you couldn't go, as far amongst those tribes.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because, I mean, people do get the wrong impression sometimes about how it must have been back then. And it's important to realize that, these tribes, excuse me, and I know I'm speaking for at least the ones here in New York anyway. These tribes didn't just like, they weren't just like, oh, well, let's just kill each other at the drop of a hat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there was times where they went to war with each other, absolutely, over usually, like you said, probably resources, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody might have had a beef with somebody, but it wasn't something. It was the first thing to happen. It wasn't like, hey, let's slap on the war paint, let's go to war.
Mm-hmm.
It was trying to work it out in different ways first. And kind of war was like usually one of the last steps taken.
Another interesting thing is the concept of reservations. Out here in the Dakotas, it was a case, and I think this is most people's perception of reservations. The white man did come out and wipe everybody out and displace them, and then say, okay, we're going to give you this back, and this is where you're going to exist. And that's how these reservations got established. But like
it's usually a plot of land that nobody else wants.
But like the Seneca and stuff, that was a case of the white man settling around them, and they looked at the land the Seneca was on and said, look, we can't kick your ass. You've been established there. We can't take it from you. So we're just going to build around you and recognize this as your reservation. They were never conquered and given it back. but
That's,
yet,
that is true to some extent. Yeah, I mean, the land was never really taken from the Seneca.
no.
The Seneca did sell a lot of land, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of trading that went on that was a bum deal for Native Americans.
Oh yeah,
as far as the way they bartered, they didn't understand how to barter with us because they didn't understand what they could have got from us. They didn't understand. You know, if I'm going to make a trade with you, Joe, I got to have at least an idea of how much you got to spend, right? Right, because if I don't get that or understand that, I'm going to get screwed on the deal.
Right.
The Native Americans, a lot like there's a comedy duo called Williams and Ree. They're from the Dakotas here. It's a white guy and it's an Indian, and they're just best friends, but they go around and do music together and comedy. And the white guy says he plays bass, and he says, "Hey, Indian, I trade you all your land for this bass guitar." He says, and the Indian says, "Shut up," you know. And he goes, "Well, that's basically what happened, isn't it?" He says, because a lot of they just didn't understand what they could have gotten out of the deal, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
The word Kentucky is a Iroquois word, meaning a kintake, which means meadowland.
Now, see, there's some I didn't know.
Yep.
Wow.
Nice. Well, you know, here in the Southwest, same thing happened with the Hopi and the Navajo. The Hopi reservation smack dab in the middle of the Navajo Nation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's just the way.
But those are two examples too of tribes that when they originated, and well, I shouldn't say originated. I don't want to speak to origination because you're talking so far back that there isn't a lot of really good documentation as far as who was where when once you start getting back beyond 600 years. We find that stuff out when we dig stuff up and
Right.
learn about that history. But those are two tribes that historically they never had to move. I mean, their reservation or their areas that they existed, their resources were so vast and they were so great in numbers that it was like, dude, and also during the settlement, as the gold rushes popped up, like in Deadwood in South Dakota, and then out in California, and the railroad ran across through, you know, kind of the middle of the country. Down in New Mexico and Arizona, it wasn't like the white man was in a hurry to get there and say, "Ooh, we want to live here." It was a desert. I mean, a lot of we got looked at that and said, "I don't know what the hell to do with this place. Let's keep moving." Right?
Kentucky had Cherokee,
Yeah.
Shawnee. I don't know how to pronounce this. Yuki or Yuchi or something. I know there was the three main tribes, and of course, the Seminoles came through. Evidently, they must have had Iroquois one time if they named this. Had to.
The
Well,
Iroquois.
they had Chickasaw, the Delaware were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing that I saw. I mean, the Iroquois at one time it had expanded out of New York a lot further than I thought they ever had. You know, of course, eventually it was all back to here, and this was their major stronghold was here in New York. The Mohawk and the Cayuga and the Oneida and the Onondaga and the Seneca. But yeah, I mean, and Jeff is right. I mean, the Seneca have never been, unlike some of the tribes out west who were actually displaced and made to freaking walk, hundreds and hundreds of miles away from where they're used to living onto some other reservation, which is a piece of land nobody else wanted anyway. The Seneca never really were displaced out of New York. I mean, they're still in the same area.
Well, and that was the first area that
they're the keepers of the Western Door, man. I mean,
well, and you're talking about a region that was one of the first places that the white man settled, and so there was a lot of tribes in that area, and there was only 2 or 3 that were big enough and had a strong enough foothold to say we're not moving. Most of them were the first ones to get displaced, and there weren't a lot of places to go.
Yeah.
because of how quickly settlement was occurring in the Northeast. But
Didn't where did the Seminole go? Because the Seminole were forced out of Florida, from what I understand, and they went up into I can't remember where they ended up going to. I keep wanting to say they ended up in like past Georgia, probably like maybe West Virginia or something like that. Or
they went to Oklahoma. A lot of them did.
oh, that's right. They went out west.
A lot of them came through Kentucky because we got a trail
Yeah.
of terror right through the town I was raised in.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
The Seminole tribe of Oklahoma and the Seminole tribe of Kentucky, and the Seminole tribe of Florida, were really the biggest ones. The Seminole tribe in Florida kind of intertwined into the is it the Miccosukee tribe or whatever in Florida? It's that's how it looks like it's spelled Miccosukee, Miccosukee, or
Yeah.
but they, the Miccosukee tribe was basically absorbed, so to speak, by the Seminole tribe in Florida, and that made them even bigger there.
Actually, I think it's a heck of a distinction. Actually, the Seminole Indians are actually the one tribe who never surrendered, never formally surrendered anything. They were like, no, we're not surrendering nothing, man. We don't surrender.
Well, and that was a terrain, if you think about it, in Florida, when you start coming down the panhandle as far as a force that would come against them, where are they going to retreat to, right? First of all. Second of all, you're talking about, and this is something I honestly 4 or 5 years ago I really wasn't that aware of until I started really looking at people like Matt and stuff down in Central Florida, Bigfoot. You start looking at how unhospitable those regions were at that time. That was like when we sent our armies to Vietnam. I mean, we weren't prepared to fight in that terrain, right? And that's kind of how Florida was, I think, for colonization. I mean, we go down there and it wasn't like we showed up at the shores of Daytona Beach and Tampa and all that and said, "Ooh, this is a beautiful country."
Break.
Joe, I was going to ask you, did you ever have a chance to go over and look on Lee's channel, morning channel, and see that Pyro's
Oh, I have not yet. I have
video?
not.
That's cool. It's cool.
Thanks for reminding me of it, though, because I get busy. Donald, hey, man. Donald wants to know how come we don't hear much about the Abenaki. Well, I know about the Abenaki, but that's only because when I was young, I read a book. In fact, it was a series of books, and I think it was ones that my mother got. And it was called Reno, the White Indian. And it was all about this kid who was adopted by the Seneca tribe when he was a small boy. Became the son of the what do the Iroquois call him, the sachem, and which is basically the chief. And they were always going back and forth with the Abenaki, but I think the Abenaki, we don't hear much about. They're really a Canadian tribe. Well, Laos they are. They were in New York. But the Abenaki were pushed out by the Iroquois, just like the Algonquin Indians were too. They were in New York too as well, but they were pushed out and became more of a Canadian. They were pushed into Canada, back up into Canada by the Iroquois. So yeah.
I gotta go, guys. I gotta get back out there on that fence. Get out there and pull some more of those vines. Nikki, have these again, okay? I like this.
Be safe, Jay.
Hey, wait, I got something for you before you go, Jay.
Oh.
Tequila.
I tell
Okay.
you what, I've seen something like that. I would have come out long ago. We'll
He
see.
was playing a saxophone and had a hat on. And
Bye, Jay. Later.
Bye bye.
Oh, you need me to get you out?
Yeah, just kick me out. It's easier.
Okay.
Good old sax
Oh.
squatch, man.
Yeah. Love that guy. But hey, we've been on 2 hours. I mean, well, hour and 51, almost 2
Time
hours.
flies when you're
is
having
that
fun.
what I'm curious? Is that what you hope? Is that kind of what you had in mind when you do your coffee shows? Kind of like, let's go at least an hour and cut it off before 2, or do you have an idea?
Well,
of
I
what
don't
you
really
wanna do?
I didn't really have, this was like totally last minute. I asked Joe. It was
Yeah.
like, I went on to go look at Lee's morning
Yeah.
coffee. Okay. And then he wasn't going to be on because of issues he's having. And I
Yeah.
went, oh, it was like a letdown, I went, oh. And then Joe posted, well, I guess, I have to put my car in the shop. I'll be off today. And I went, oh, okay. Joe's off. Let's just get together.
Yeah.
No, Lee's not around. Let's see.
But, yeah.
So that's actually how it came about. Because I know a lot of the people who were on the chat, they go to Lee's, in the morning, because
Yeah.
he's got something good going there in the morning. So I don't want to take anything from him because it's gaining.
Yeah, and when I talked to Lee about that and said, "Hey, look, if I start doing something in the mornings, I just want to do it like once or twice a week, right?" But I don't want to step over you when you do it. I told him, and I said, "What are you thinking?" And he says, "I don't have a plan." He says, "If I wake up and say I don't have anything to do for 2 hours, I'm just going to do it." And I said, "Well, before I do it, I'll always ask you if you're going to do one." And he says, "Fine." He says, "And before I do one, I'll ask you." I said, that's the important thing, I think, is I think it's good that one of us is doing them, because it is, there are people at work who can, listen in on something like this that are maybe a little bored. There's people that are at home during the day. I notice we get people like Mr. Lee and folks from the UK who this is the easiest time for them to listen to, rather than 11 at night, our time,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there is a niche to fill with this sort of thing. There's obviously been a lot of people in other communities that do their morning stuff.
Right.
But
no, and I
don't think there's any need for us to be running over each other doing it either.
By no means. I don't mean to do that at all. And I thought I had heard you say you were going to possibly do a coffee morning thing. And
yeah, like I said, I only want to do it maybe once or twice a week. And if I did it, I'd probably, maybe that's something to discuss. Maybe if we get Lee together and me and you, and we kind of figure out and say, "Hey, Lee, I know you were kind of thinking about just winging it, but are there 2 mornings you'd prefer?" And maybe get a little bit, because I don't know how fair that is for the folks who would join us in chats. Are always like, "Well, where the hell am I going this morning?"
Right, just like I was saying, I was watching 3 shows last night. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And because we just become very loyal to people, and watching and stuff. And I don't know
when I started a year ago and you started a year ago, we were looking at shows that had been going on, like Joe's and Moog's and stuff, saying, "Well, hey, look, there's 7 nights in a week, right? Let's figure this out."
Yeah.
And when I first started doing Monday night, I was like, dude, nobody's doing anything on Monday night. So I picked Monday night. Now all of a sudden it's like there's 3 shows that happen. It's like, I don't know how everything keeps moving and evolving, but trying to keep up with it and keep moving stuff, that gets difficult. I mean, at some point you kind of just say, you know what? I respect that somebody's doing a show that night, but this is the night that actually works for me. This is the night my guest is willing to come on. I'm going to do a show. And I don't mean anything personal by it if it ends up on somebody else's night,
Right.
But
that's how I ended up moving to Mondays, because I was like, well, there's nobody on usually Mondays that I can think of really, except for, I'm like, well, Jeff's show is on at 9, so okay, I'll do mine at 7.
Well, and I think we have a pretty good...
like, that way we're not butting heads on Monday night. But now it's like, I'm on Monday night, Jeff's on Monday night, now somebody else is on Monday night.
Well, before you were doing it, Petikoff was on Monday night at 7. And
Oh,
so
okay.
Oh
I talked to
yeah.
him and said, hey, look, I'm going to do Monday night show, but I'm not going to start till 9 Eastern, 2 hours after you've been on. So I just want you to know I'm not trying to run you over. He says, dude, I'll try to end my shows by 9. And it got to a point where he was like, hey, we're coming to the end of the show. I encourage y'all to go over to Jeff's channel at Pine Island Research. And when I would start, I'd be like, hey, welcome to all Alex Petticoff's viewers,
Right.
And then when he kind of got to where he got really busy being out in the field, doing stuff with the documentaries, you popped in at that 7 o'clock. And we kind of just kept maintaining that same thing.
Yeah.
You were starting at 7, you were done by 9. I'd come on at 9.
Yep.
But eventually, Joe, there's going to be a third one that comes along, and then there's going to be a fourth one.
Well, it's
and
like when
I
Nick
don't
and
want
Steve
either
on
of us
Sunday.
to ever look at those guys and say, "What, do they not like me? Do they have it out
Yeah,
for me?"
right.
That's
Right.
it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many podcasts. There's only so many days of the week, and so much
I know.
time.
I did the same thing with Steve. I originally was at 6 p.m. And then I realized, no, I'm running into, because Steve had taken that little bit of time off. And so I didn't have to worry about it. Then he came back and I was on top of him. And so I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I'll bump mine back. And I send everybody from mine straight over to his. He starts out with 30 freaking people right away, in his chat. Although he doesn't need any help from me, at all. But
one of the things
works.
that I realized right away about this mid-morning to midday area is that once I went to the Untold Network, we didn't grow that big over what I was. I mean, we have like 1.5 or 1.6 thousand subs. I mean, it's not that many yet. Hopefully it grows faster. But when I started, it was like a month ago, Doug said, have you seen our podcast numbers? And I said, no, why? And he goes, well, you'll start realizing how important it is to explain what you're seeing when you put up a picture and stuff, because our podcast listens on all the podcast platforms, if you add them all together, are about 15 to 20 times what our views are on YouTube. And I said, can you see what time they're listening? He says, yeah. And he sent me, I looked at the analytics and I was like, wow. I mean, it blew me away from 9 a.m. I'm Central time. So like for Eastern, like from 9 a.m. Eastern to like 1 p.m. Eastern was like 60% of these podcasts.
Wow.
So like people would get to work, they'd take an hour to put all the fires out in their emails and everything else. And then that mid-morning lull would roll. They're at a job where they can have earbuds in and listen to whatever they want while they're doing mortgages or whatever their job is.
Right.
And it was just blew me away at how many people listen to this. So I think that's a testimony that if somebody was to regularly try to fill this niche, even if we do it, as a cooperative, effort, that there'll always be 20 to 30 people popping in to listen to a midday show for us channels that are, 500 to 1,500 subs.
Yeah. I think so. I definitely do. I mean, I've been popping on the Mojo Bone show, and his morning show is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But that's just a 1 hour little slot,
That's going to be a good dynamic for you. I know Enzo real well. We've been friends for a while. Enzo's one of those guys that's kind of like JoJo. He's gifted in that he can talk about anything. You want to talk about ufology? You want to talk about ghosts? You want to talk whatever? Worldviews, economics. He's a pretty smart fella, and I think you're going to mesh well with that because it's a show that's prepared to go wherever the chat wants to go as far as a conversation,
Right. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. And his morning show just started, but he's been doing the radio show for a little while on KBSR radio. And so now that's why I'll be jumping in on that panel, but that's pre-recorded. Like at noon in an hour, I'm going to be doing the pre-recorded show.
Yeah. He's kind of working the system backwards, real similar to what Untold did. I'm told never cared about YouTube, never cared about YouTube views, subs, anything like that. Syndicated on like 60 some radio stations with Doug's show on Wednesday nights, was on all the podcast platforms. So they built up this huge outside of YouTube, arena. And then we start a YouTube channel. It's like 500 subs right away. And then it just kind of sits there. It's like, how do you get these 20,000 people out there to come to YouTube, right? Yeah. It's like there's a lot of people who are in our chat that watch shows on YouTube and say, I never listen to podcasts. Why would I want to listen to it when I can watch it, right?
Right.
There's like 10 times that many people that are saying, I love listening to podcasts. I don't have to sit there and watch anything. I can just drive my car and listen to it.
Right. Yeah.
And I was kind of blind to that at the beginning.
I was too.
But
yeah, it really weirds me out because like on my Facebook Bigfoot page on Facebook, I got like 2.3K followers. And I'm like, well, if I could just get all of you 2.3
to come and just hit the subscribe.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm sitting at 2.3K on Facebook and I'm looking at what I just got a little bump in subscribers and I'm up to like 540, I think, or 542 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I've got all these people over here on Facebook though. It's like, just
it doesn't translate over.
It doesn't cost you any money. It's never going to cost you any money. Just click the subscribe button.
To have a behind the scenes chat in front of everybody here to give everybody in the chat maybe a little bit of view of how that marketing type stuff works. I think really, and I was talking to Nikki about this the other day, really the key to it is cross promoting with other channels that are similar to yours, that have the same kind of flavor as yours.
Right.
I know when you judge by the 20, 30 regulars that you have in chat, Joe and I have in chat, Nikki has in chat, we see a lot of the same names, right? But what we don't see is, that's 30 or 40, let's say. But then after a couple of weeks, that show's been out on YouTube, you've got, 300-400 views, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those people that view it after the fact aren't the regulars. Those people that view my show after the fact aren't necessarily the same ones that view your show after the fact. They just run across them in their feeds. They stumble upon them.
Right.
Okay. So we got to look past and not slighting the chat in any way, but those regulars that we always see in chat, that we're all grateful for them. But as far as growing, like if I did on my show said, hey, look, tonight, anybody who goes over and subs to Joe's channel, that is a regular listener here, or maybe you're hearing my show after we've done the live view version of it and you're listening to it after the fact, go over to Joe. The link's in my description. Like his channel, because next week I'm going to give away one of Joe's hooded sweatshirts for Winnie Big sweatshirt. And I do that, and then you do it with a Pine Island Research piece of, stuff, and we do it. Then the next week, you do it with Nikki. And then the next week, I do it with Brent. You know what I mean? And that's how, it's not the regulars. It's all those people that are trickling in after the fact that say, I've never heard of this Joe guy. Let me go over and look at his channel. I wouldn't mind winning that sweatshirt,
I know the first time I researched my analytics and it says people who watched my show but were not subscribed. I'm like, why?
What's the point?
You get 1,200 people and none of you are subscribed, but you want to come back every week.
It's like going to McDonald's and not ordering anything. What the hell is going on here?
What? Yeah. Just
why would you go there if you're not going to eat there?
Cent to hit that subscribe. It doesn't. And maybe you have a lot of subscriptions, or whatever, but
I know people think that it can be kind of a gimmicky thing when you do giveaways, right? But I'd rather do that. I'd rather grow each other's channels by helping each other out. If I got to give away a $30 or $40 hoodie to gain 50 new subscribers from the people who watch Joe's show after the fact, not the people in chat, because we already share those subs.
Mm-hmm.
But the people that come along after the fact, if I give away a hoodie and get 50 new subscribers, I guess, that's what I'll do. And then we'll do it back and forth. And if every few weeks we're switching around, kind of help, it's 5 or 6 channels that are close to each other and friends with each other. Why wouldn't we help each other grow in that way? Because like I had said earlier in chat, none of us are really making any money at this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the
We're not.
truth is, if you had
It's going
5,000
out.
subs, you're not making any money. You got to get 20, 25,000 subs before you're making YouTube income that matters. Okay.
Right.
And so we don't do. So really, what it comes down to is your shows. You better enjoy doing your show, Joe. You better have fun doing your show.
Oh, I
If there
do.
ever comes a
Mhm.
day where it's not fun for you, what's the point? Because you're not getting paid to do it, right?
Right. Right.
Well, and that's what I mentioned to Nikki. I was like, I mean, for me, yeah, would it be really cool for me to look and go, wow, I got 1,000 subscribers? Absolutely. I mean, the more people that hear me, the better. I like, but I mean, this has always been just a means to an end for me to get my voice out there. It's not like I've never thought about, well, let me get on this YouTube. Let me start making money doing podcasts. That was never part of it. Not that that's a bad thing. I know a lot of people that do make money doing podcasting, and why not? If that's your thing, I mean, sure.
Put in the time. Hey.
That's a valid way to make money. I know plenty of people that I watch, like this science, a lot of the science stuff that I watch. I watch this one guy, Forrest Valkai, smart guy, way younger than me. I wish I'd had a science teacher like him, man. I would have been more interested in science when I was a kid. I watch him. That's how he makes his money, is by doing these videos and teaching science basically on YouTube, but I mean, for me, no, that's never been that.
And JoJo's in the house now. And
If I could do it, would I? I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know if
I
I'm
get that.
See, I don't know if I'm that dedicated to being a podcast,
I
Yeah.
and
also
that's
think
my
that
job.
I
mean,
also
I
think
like
that
doing my shows, but I don't know if I want to do it professionally. You know what I'm saying?
I also think that it's easy for somebody who watches our shows to get this misconception that the reason why you do it is because you like pushing your opinion out there. I mean, that's not the reason. When I go and I don't do this a lot, but the few times that I've gone and spoke at a convention or a get together, it's not the 1 hour that you go up and share whatever you're going to share. It's the 6 hours afterwards that you listen to people come up and say, let me tell you about my story. I mean, to me, that is fascinating. I could sit there for 6 days afterwards and listen to people tell me about stuff that's happened to them. Right. Yeah. And so, my channel, it's a great way for me to put, here's a theory I have on this, or here's my thought on that. But what's really enjoyable is to hear everybody else's thoughts on it and what their ideas are. Because if it was just a one-way street, it wouldn't be enjoyable. It isn't about a vanity thing of, boy, I want more subs so more people hear what I got to say. I want more subs so that the conversation gets bigger and I can hear what more people have to say and the feedback and the ideas and,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole key. That's why, I like to get guests on, at least on the one show, Sasquatch Random Live. I like to have guests on because, as I've said before, I like to promote those people, and hear what, they got to say and to make an interesting show. I mean, if it was just me and that's all the show consisted of, Sasquatch Random Live, just me talking about Bigfoot, I'd run out of shit to say eventually. I mean,
well, I don't know how many times I've had on a guest, especially lately, it seems like. I mean, I try to split my shows. Well, I'll have Randy Harrington on one week, who's another researcher, right? And with him, I can say, what are your thoughts on this? And he'll tell me what his thoughts are on migration or whatever. And I'll say, here's what my thought is on it. And then he'll add to that, and I'll be like, holy crap, that's an angle that I never thought of before. I mean, I learn more from my guests in having those conversations. He shares what his thoughts are on something. I share what mine are on something. And all of a sudden they start commingling and building to a point where you realize there's something you didn't consider before. Yeah. Then the other half of my shows, I like to have encounter people like Jay Fritz, or I'll probably be contacting, have Jay Birch come on. Now, people in our circle have heard Jay Birch's story before, but all these people that I don't even know what their names are on podcasts have never heard Jay Birch's story before.
Right.
So I try not to get in get put in a shoebox of, well, he always has researchers on, or he's always,
Right.
do you want to do like a West show where everybody one after the other is lined up to come on and tell their story? There's enough people doing that. I think I don't want to be stuck in that corner of the room.
Right.
I'd rather do something that is always centered kind of around the same topic, but approaches it differently. Sometimes with a researcher, sometimes with an experiencer,
Right.
But
Exactly. And that's where I wanted to take mine, because I don't do the research stuff. Okay. I don't do that. I do research, but not on actual people's stuff, unless I have something bad to say or have to, show something that doesn't seem right, or red flags, because that's my background. That's my show. That's where I base everything off of, going that direction. But the most important thing for me was that I wasn't like all the other shows, that I wanted to be a true variety show and have different segments, which is what I'm trying to develop now, as you guys can see
Yeah.
with my
I
different
think that's
things.
great, Nikki. I
And
think
and
what you're
it's a
doing is
good way.
absolutely
There's a
fabulous.
it's
Because
a resource. It's a resource that you can build upon in a different way. Because, like, when it comes to researchers, okay, it's not hard for Joe to be on a show and say, that reminds me, there is a concept that Jeff talks about now and then, where he felt that this is a reason that could be a plausible explanation as to why they do this. I mean, you can cite me, I can cite Matt, I can cite you. I can talk about researchers and say, one theory that Randy has on this is this. Maybe that applies here. I don't need Randy there to do that, right? Now, but somebody who's had an encounter, I can't say, well, there's this guy named Jay Fritz, and then me tell his story. I can't tell Jay's story.
No, nobody
Right.
can.
Not like Jay can.
Nobody
Right.
can.
I can reference other researchers and their thoughts and their theories. I can't bring the flavor and what makes an encounter story real if I'm not the person who didn't experience it. So,
Right.
and the same thing with hoaxing. I can say, well, this is what one researcher thinks about something, and be fairly accurate in how I throw that synopsis out of what their view of it is. But I can't say, well, Nikki looked into this hoax one time, and here's what she found. Because what she found is a plethora of data that brings her to those talking points, and I'm not aware of what all those, all that
Right.
data is, right? I can't just give you the 30-second, here's Nikki's view on this hoax thing. So when you start talking about, well, I'm going to fill a niche of talking about hoaxing efforts of what people have done in the past, I'm going to fill a niche and talk about experiencers and have them on to share those things. I'm going to go on JoJo's show, and we're going to talk about the worldview of this thing, and then 2 minutes later be talking about what the government says about UFOs or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that you can build upon, and there's room to grow. But when you're going to go on and just do a show basically about the tech tools and tricks of research, like I started my show, that's a pretty small shoebox to exist in. And that's
Right.
one of the reasons why I kind of felt like it would be cool to get encounter people on. It would be cool
Right.
to be able to talk about, and I'm not afraid to have a guest on talk about something maybe I don't subscribe to. Like the whole remote
Oh, yeah, well,
viewing
that's
thing,
entertainment, man.
the whole remote viewing thing, I don't do it. I can't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I'm not going to say that somebody else couldn't. It's easy to just say BS flag. That's not likely. I don't get the concept. I don't understand it. But I'll have the conversation with somebody and I'll ask them about their experiences. And to me, it's interesting. I don't
Well,
even
that's
care if you don't subscribe to that ability.
Jeff, that's the important part, man, right there. Is that, yeah, like when it comes to that stuff, remote viewing, I don't believe it. I don't believe it because I don't have enough evidence that shows me that's real. But does that mean I don't want to have a conversation with somebody who says it is real? Absolutely not. I want to have that conversation. because
It's the same
I
thing
want to
with
see if
Dogman,
they have
Joe.
something that they can show me that says that I'm wrong, that I should change my way of thinking.
It's
Absolutely,
the same
gotta have that
thing.
conversation.
There's so many subjects that are like that where I just can't wrap my head around it. The concept of dogma, I've explained it 100 million times. I don't see an evolutionary flesh and blood slot that I can slide this into. It just doesn't work for me, right? However, if I'm at a conference and somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I want to tell you about my dogman story," I'm like, "Dude, let me open my beer." Okay,
Absolutely,
I'm ready.
I don't
I
believe
want to freaking hear it. Yeah,
I don't
I want to
believe they're
hear
real.
it.
I don't believe they're real either. But if you want to tell me that you saw a dog man, you want to describe some weird shit that happened to you in the woods, absolutely. Let me open my beer and let me hear
Well,
it.
and maybe it's
Let me
just
hear
the
it.
age
I
we're
want to
at,
hear it.
Joe. Me, you, and Nikki are all about the same age. Have we reached that point in life where we can reflect back and say, I can come up with several instances where I had a position on something and said, there's no effing way you can do that. There's no effing way that can be real. And we found ourselves proven wrong.
Right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the
Somebody
whole
might have
thing
said,
for
"Hey,
me,
I can
man.
light a fart and
I
make it
don't.
go 3 foot long." And I said, "There's no
I
freaking way you can do that." And they did.
I
And now
don't
I'm like,
believe.
I'm
I
proven
yeah,
wrong.
absolutely. I don't
Yeah.
believe that Bigfoot are telepathic, man. But if somebody wants to tell me a story about a Bigfoot, and tell me there's, I'll listen to it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's lots of people that some of them, yeah, I think some of them are just bullshit making up stories. Other people actually believe that this has happened. Now, there's a reason why they believe that, and that's what I want to know. I want to know why, man. So even if I don't believe it, and you want to tell me, absolutely, I want to hear it. I want to hear it because maybe there could be something that might make me, even if it doesn't make me believe it, it might make me think about something differently
Yeah.
that I hadn't thought about in a way, in some other way. So absolutely, I have to do that, and before Nikki, I love the way you're doing your show, man. You've been developing it, and now, and it's beyond Harry Man hoaxes and hoodwinks, as the name suggests. I mean, yes, that's part of it. The making sure everybody knows, what's not real out there and who the people are that are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But you've also added those segments. I thought when you added the segments, that was great, man. I mean, to show me what you've got. That doesn't really have anything to do with hoaxes. That has to do with, hey, you think you got evidence? Show me what you got.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I love the Bigfoot in the news part.
So
I
Joe,
mean, it all fits in with your show very well, those segments, and I think you're doing a great
Mm-hmm.
job with it so far, man.
Thank you.
just to give you a little
Absolutely.
glimpse of the Rick Dyer thing, just so, and everybody else, so they know what they're going to be in for here.
Oh, I can't wait for the
You don't
next
mind if I speak candidly
No,
about
now
how
you
this
can
came
say
about,
now
right?
everything can be
Okay.
out in the open now.
So originally, me and Nikki and Steve were talking about the idea, and the idea came about the other night on Steve's show. Somebody in chat said, "Do you think Rick Dyer even believes in Bigfoot right now?" And Steve sat back for a moment and said, "I don't know." And I thought that was like a testimony of how many unanswered questions still exist here right now, right? Like we thought we'd seen it all when he was on Nikki's show, and yet you guys keep talking about the after show and things that were said and things that were happened, and yet so many people didn't get to see the after show. I mean, there's only 3 or 4 of you that were in there. So we had this idea that if we did a Rick Dyer show again on Nikki's channel in front of the same people. One thing about Rick Dyer's messages and people who were there that night and watched it, you were pissed. Your emotions were on fire, right? Like people kept saying, does he not know how many people he hurt? Does he not know? And the simple question, the simple answer was, he doesn't give an F. He doesn't care, dude.
Right.
He does not care about your feelings. All these things that we were getting fired up about saying, how could he do this? It's easy how he could do it. He didn't care.
Yeah, he didn't
He
care.
cared about him and an opportunity to make money. That was it. he also felt that the community was very gullible and that there was a lot of low-hanging fruit to be picked because of the gullibility that's out there. And he still feels that way. And probably rightfully so, to be honest with you. You go into some of these huge Facebook groups and see how easily they subscribe to a theory or how they look at a picture like everybody gets a trophy here, right? Doesn't matter how blurry it is. Great picture, dude, right? I mean, there's still that many low-hanging fruit out there for a Rick Dyer to come along and pluck from. There really is.
Absolutely.
And so the idea was, do we do the show again on Nikki's channel in front of the same people? Or if we did it, we talked about, should we do it on my channel and have Nikki host it, right? Mm-hmm. Have Nikki host it, have Steve there to hold him accountable to the truth, but put it in front of a different audience. You know what I mean?
Different and a more reach. Different.
Yeah, with the podcast reach, there might have been a little more reacher. So we all kind of three talked about it and said, that's probably the way we should go with a part 2. So I called Rick Dyer back and I had over an hour conversation with him. And dude, after I talked to him for an hour, I was like, there's no freaking way I can do this show on Untold Radio. Because I was thinking things like, well, Rick, is there any way that we can really gauge on, do you have any remorse for what you did? Or if so, what are the things you would regret or you'd do differently? I'm just going to give you a little snapshot. His answer was, dude, this community is lucky I did what I did for them. And and he's ready to do it again, basically. If the money's there, and he honestly believes in his head he is the most qualified person to prove that Sasquatch exists.
That's the true narcissist.
He believes that. And when I was thinking, hey, look, because Nikki and them in that after show kind of felt like, well, maybe he's come down. He's being honest. He's pulling the veil off. He's saying, the truth is, guys, I didn't care. I didn't, and that's how he wanted you to view him. Like, wow, maybe he's just trying to be a real dude now, right? No. He is. This show is going to be what it was last time, ×2 on steroids. I guarantee you.
The thing is, man, narcissists, man, very rare, especially that type of a narcissistic personality, it doesn't change, man. And when it comes to what they call a malignant narcissist, they don't care about who is affected adversely by what they do. They don't give a shit. And whether or not you take them and you go, do you realize how much? And they can go, I never thought about it that much or that way before. And you think, oh, now I made him think. But in the back of his mind, he's thinking, and I don't care.
Well, and the thing
I
is,
thought of it like that, and I don't care. Now that I do think of it.
He, when we talked about, what he pulled off back then, when he did it, versus if nobody knew who he was right now, do you think you could do that all over again? He said, absolutely. And I said, it's a bigger community. He said, Jeff, that's all relative. He says, there are 10 times more people now tuned into the subject. So there's 10 more times more people who will pay the money to look at the whatever. But there's 10 more people out there. There's 10 times more people ready to throw the BS flag. There's 10 more times Nikki's out there that are ready to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm too skeptical to fall for that, right? Mm-hmm. But even though there's 10 times more people ready to throw the BS flag on you, there's 10 times more people ready to just get in line and say, here's my $5. Show me what you got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the truth.
Don't get it
Even
wrong.
the non-believers were going to go see. If he toured again, I'd probably want to see that one too, just because I want to see the shit show.
He told me, he says, you can go to the fair and see the tapestry hanging that says Lizard Woman, and it shows the chick in the bikini with scales all over, and you say in your head, there's no freaking way that can exist. It's not possible. But damn it, here's my 50 cents. I want to go see what's in there.
And don't get it wrong.
People will do it.
Dyer is not a stupid hoaxer. Dyer's a smart guy, man. Don't get it wrong. He's intelligent. He's intelligent in a foxy, slick kind of way, man.
You got to understand
don't
when
get it
people
wrong.
say
He's
doesn't
not-
people
he's
say
not just
didn't he
some dumb
realize the fallout or didn't he realize what would happen if he did it? Sure he did. But you look at it this way. Some people, if I walked up to you and said, I'll give you $1,000 if I can punch you in the face, they measure the risk versus reward and say, keep your $1,000. I don't want to get punched in the face. Then there's other people that say, swing away.
Mhm.
Right.
I'll take the money. And Rick Dyer was like, I'll give you $150,000 to let me make half the people out there think you're the devil. Are you okay with that? He'd say, write the check, baby.
Mhm. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
the answer to how could he do this? Doesn't he realize it's us who don't realize that he doesn't care? And that should be a testimony to how we need to be skeptical and how these big Facebook groups that just jump on board of any picture that's put up there, they are waiting for the next Rick Dyer to fleece them. They are.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a skill that he has. That is a skill that Rick Dyer has, is recognizing who he can huckster.
So with that, guess where you guys are gonna be December 10th?
Yeah. Just rip out the
Watching
other
for the
30
show.
pages of your calendar and
I know
throw them
where I'm
away.
gonna
Just
be.
I'm
leave
not gonna
10th
say
there.
anything more because I want
know
that to
where I'm
come out
gonna
of the
be.
show. But
It's gonna be
it's gonna be
fun.
interesting. The one thing I will say is he did contact me again, and he wanted to make sure it was gonna be live. So
I
yeah,
told
he
him, I
wants it
said,
live.
I don't want you to worry about it being an ambush thing because you control
Yeah,
where it
no.
goes. You can be truthful or you can be
Right.
false. So that's going to determine what you get for feedback from everybody else. He says, Jeff, you can't ambush me. Nobody can ambush me because I'm willing to answer any question you want to ask me. That's what he said.
So
And
that's
at least
what we're
he's
gonna
being
do.
truthful, and he's being truthful for once in his life when he says that.
Well, that he's being
doesn't
truthful
care.
about
He will.
that. I don't,
He will answer what he doesn't give a shit. He will
Nikki's
answer
got a
whatever you
lot of
ask him.
stuff to confront him about.
I
He
believe it
gave
when
the
he says
impression
that.
that he was going to get out of the Bigfoot world, and so much of what he's doing shows he's not. And Nikki's going to address those things. I don't want to say what they are, but Nikki's going to call him to the carpet. That's her role. Rick's going to give whatever answer he gives,
I can't
and
wait.
Steve's going to hold him accountable to it because Steve
Right.
was walked that whole timeline when Rick did.
I can't
Yeah.
wait.
So
it's gonna
The
be
thriller
good.
and vanilla.
Anyway, you guys, thanks for coming on and doing the morning show.
it was
And
fun.
I don't know if this is going to be a regular thing. This one just happened, but I think between the three of us, maybe we could get something going where we do this again once a week, something.
Yeah, let's flesh it out and see.
It does
Maybe-
not
and
Bigfoot.
maybe
It
we
can be
can
any
do-
topic. The morning smash up can be anything we want to talk about, whatever comes up, because it feels good to talk about other things. So
I'm looking
Like
forward.
cars having their exhaust replaced. And
yeah, that's how it all started. So anyway, I gotta get going. Y'all, thanks for being out there and supporting our channels. We all appreciate it. And today's Wednesday. Who do we got tonight? By Jeff. Something Sasquatch about? Brent and Joe? Brent and Sean?
tonight, I think so. It's Wednesday, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's Jess who's going to do a show. Yeah.
hopefully we'll see you all there in the chat. So love you guys. Adios.